Hello and welcome to yet another video. This is the 9th episode of the story in which Naruto almost dies at Final Valley, but fate still wants him to live. The Shinigami takes an interest in Naruto and makes him its first summoner. Watch Naruto as he shows the world what it's like to summon the Death God. This story comes from Kyubi. Make certain to support him, her. Please like and subscribe to show your support. Let's get the show started. Naruto and Yura sat at the end of the boat with Sasuke and Yuna. The four were following Sasuke's lead towards Orochimaru to go and put an end to the snake Sannin once and for all. To Naruto there was almost no greater joy other than his mother or his family. Naruto turned his head to see Yura sleeping soundly on his shoulder. She looked so cute while she was resting. He straightened her up slightly to give her a more comfortable position, which made her give a slight moan before staying silent. Naruto smiled at her and then moved towards Yuna and Sasuke, who seemed to be talking. Or rather, Yuna was doing more talking than Sasuke was. She would ask questions or say something while Sasuke would grunt, nod and on the rare occasion answer her. Naruto wasn't sure, but he could tell that Sasuke was happy despite the stoic expression on his face. It was probably the first time that Naruto was sure that Sasuke was more than willing to have a female companion around him. This made Naruto snicker as he wondered if Sasuke was just like him. Until recently I didn't know that Sasuke knew how to smile. And just look at him, he just can't seem to get rid of her, Naruto thought to himself, and unknown to him, Kyubi was awake and glanced at the scene. It might have been that he was sort of a pervert himself, but the demon fox found it rather amusing that even the Uchiha faggot might have a thing for his family. Granted, it wasn't to the extent like Naruto going for his mother, but it still seemed to be there. Kyubi, however, didn't say anything and merely went back to sleep, seeing that nothing had warranted his complete attention. Seeing as they still had quite a ways to go, Naruto went into his backpack and took out a book on Fuinjutsu. Like Yuri, he wanted to learn more about the things his clan did, and in true he was thinking about that time-space ninjutsu of his. Before he left, he made a vow that he and Kushina would have it down in theory and practice by the next time they returned to Konoha, which Naruto felt might be more soon than he expected. I have to figure out a way to separate the chakra in my body through my hands. Center it down towards my lower abdomen and then make it join back together in the form of Honshu. Maybe something in this book will help, Naruto figured before opening it. He began his slow process of reading while trying to understand everything he could. He wanted to be like his father, be a genius that could make his own jutsu and put in the effort for it. This would actually be the first jutsu he made on his own after the Raisin Shuriken. With Kushina back in Uzumaki, Kushina was busy packing her bags along with Zabuza, who was supposed to take her towards Kiri. Based on what Zabuza and Haku had told the Red Death about the current Mizukage, then Kushina could fathom a guess of who it was. Hopefully she would be right and she would make her freaking cousin pay her back. Oh, she just couldn't wait for it. Read. Zabuza? Kushina asked, taking her backpack, while Zabuza shook his head that he was ready. He quickly strapped his guillotine sword to his back while taking a bag in his hand. The Kiri swordsman then looked out to see Yuri doing some stretches while Fuka and Haku watched over her. Ready when you are, I guess. You'd better know that I'm not very welcome over there, so dash. Zabuza strayed off from the hint he tried to give Kushina, knowing that she had gotten it perfectly. She knew what he was talking about when she had seen his slashed Kiri headband. She merely smiled and patted his shoulder. I said that they wouldn't attack you, and they won't. They can try, but I won't let them. Come on, we can take the spar boat that Wave was so kind to build for us, Kushina said while Zabuza nodded. Alright, we're leaving, Kushina said, and immediately people stopped what they were doing. Kakashi, Rin and Yugao turned to them while waving goodbye. Haku decided to bid her master, a surrogate father, a goodbye. Mikoto came from the house and turned to Zabuza. Watch her, Zabuza. She might have aged, but she's just as reckless as her son, Mikoto said, and Kushina's response was to snort, then fold her arms at such a blatant, truthful statement. You have no need to worry, Zabuza said before he walked off with the others waving goodbye to him. The two swordsmen walked off from the village and into the trees with only the rustling of the bushes indicating their presence, but that in time stopped also and all traces of their presence vanished. It feels good to see Kushina-sama again, Rin said smiling while she placed her elbows on her lap. Kakashi gave an eye-smile before nodding his head while leaning back. I was shocked also, but yeah, it was good to see her again. If only we could see Minato-sensei again, Kakashi said while Rin arched an eyebrow in confusion. She had yet to even consider that at the moment, but know that it was brought to her attention she had decided to ask. Hey, that's right. Kakashi, tell me. Why hasn't Naruto-san tried to revive his father? He revived me, didn't he? Rin asked and Kakashi nodded his head. He sighed and rubbed the back of his head. Yeah, it was something that I asked Naruto also and he had given me the answer about 2 weeks ago. He said that while he can revive anyone if he's specific, he told me that Shin said he couldn't bring back those who have used Tashiki Fujin or have been sealed using it. That includes Minato-sensei, Kakashi said while Rin sighed. She lowered her head with a nod and looked out at the peaceful forest. Well, you can't win them all, I guess. At least Obito is also alive. We should go find him, Rin said while Kakashi nodded his head. He couldn't deny that seeing his friend who do the team a world of good. It was really something to think about. I agree, but we don't know where he is and it's not like people are going to know his name. I'm sure that they don't think anymore Uchiha could be alive. However, I do think you're right, Kakashi said while Rin nodded. She stood to her feet and stretched. Then it's settled. We'll find Obito sooner or later. However, right now, I have some catching up to do as I'm not yet adjusted to this older body. Then I might have to get back to training and learning some new things, Rin said walking off while Kakashi watched her leave. He wondered if it could be a dream, but he doubted it, and if it was, then he never wanted to wake up. Kakashi had too much making up to do to want to wake up at the moment. Back with Naruto and Sasuke, it didn't take that long before Naruto, Sasuke, Yuna and Yura reached the shoreline of Wave. Naturally, the people were happy to see their recent contractors, but Naruto and Sasuke didn't have the time for a stop. Everyone disembarked from the ship while Naruto had his clones sail it back towards Uzushiogakure. So Sasuke, where are we going? Naruto asked and Sasuke tapped his finger. He looked out into the village and closed his eyes. He scanned his memory for the contents of Orochimaru's lyre design, which wasn't hard. Living 2 years with the snake Sannin, then you knew to pay good attention to details. Sasuke opened his eyes and turned his head to a sharp left. We'll be moving towards a small dugout just past Otogakure. If I'm right, then that's where Orochimaru is. Even though I might have said it in the past, Naruto, I did still listen to your warning about Orochimaru wanting my body. I also knew about the 2-year wait he was planning, and he should be at his rope's end and wrapped in his stupid bandages again with Kabuto healing him, Sasuke said while Naruto nodded. However, Yuna grabbed Sasuke's shoulder, which made him face her only for Sasuke to see genuine concern written on her face. Sasuke, what did Orochimaru need you for? Yuna asked and Sasuke sighed. It's probably not just me, but I was just the only one at the time. The ass wanted me for my Sharingan. Naturally, I think he will want you for yours if he sees you, Sasuke said while Yuna growled. She wasn't growling at Sasuke's choices nor his way of saying that, but she was angry at the fact that her not-so-little cousin was targeted by Orochimaru at a young age. Oh, she'd rip that guy a new one when she saw him. Well then, Sasuke-san, please lead the way, Yura said, putting a scroll into her pouch. She then took out a medium-sized staff and twirled it around before putting it on her back. Whoa, don't go hitting me with that thing, Naruto said while Yura grinned. Then don't give me a reason to, she said while Naruto snorted. He merely folded his arms while Yuna and Sasuke looked on with mixed expressions before the four shot off into the trees. Sasuke took the lead with Yura and Yuna in the middle while Naruto held the rear. Sasuke, what are we going to do after we kill the pedo? Naruto asked, and Sasuke gave a hidden smirk across his face. He stopped on a branch and turned around. Simple. We're going to go and get some people. In fact, Naruto, we're about to get another family member for you, Sasuke said while Naruto widened his eyes. Another Uzumaki, and it was one that he didn't even know was still alive. Granted, he didn't know that Yura and Yuri were alive, but that was beside the point at the moment. I see. What's their name? Naruto asked, and Sasuke turned around. Her name is Karen and she works for Orochimaru, Sasuke said while Naruto and Yura widened their eyes. They both stayed silent for a minute to merely take that in. It was hard to believe that any self-respecting Uzumaki would ever go with that skinless, dickless, possibly child-molesting, son of a bitch. Do worry, Yura. We'll figure it out later, Naruto said while Yura nodded her head. She turned her head to see Naruto's smiling face and the sight calmed her down. She was rather tense about letting some Orochimaru follower be around her family, but she could try and ignore it. Family was family, no matter how dark it was in a way. I know, Nisama. I just can't help worrying, Yura said while Naruto just smiled. He merely jumped up to her and kissed her on the cheek. Come on. Let's go get our family, he said, and Yura smiled with a nod. Sasuke and Yuna snorted and the female Uchiha turned to her cousin making a gagging sound which made Sasuke snicker. He nodded before glaring at Naruto. Come on, Naruto. We're leaving. With any luck we'll be there before nightfall, Sasuke said, and Naruto nodded his head as everyone disappeared from view. With Kushina and Zabuza, while Sasuke and Naruto were dealing in their own endeavors, Kushina and Zabuza had just landed at Kiri. It was actually a short trip considering how close Kirigakure was to Uzushiogakure on the map. Come on, Zabuza. It's time to put your Mizukage in her place, Kushina said while Zabuza just settled for nodding. He didn't know just how much influence his superior's mother was going to have over the Mizukage, but she sure seemed confident. But then again, maybe when your son is the summoner to one of the most powerful beings in the world, then you tend to think so. The mist settled in for Kushina and Zabuza as they walked further. It also didn't take long before 3 kunai hit the ground. Kushina stopped Zabuza and both watched as they were surrounded on all sides by Kiri Shinobi. Zabuza Momochi, you are under arrest and are to be judged before Kiri's Mizukage. You and your partner are to surrender immediately, someone said coming forward. Zabuza grabbed the hilt of his sword and glared hard, looking from left to right, but a gentle hand from Kushina stopped him from doing anything. Sorry, but you seem to be mistaken. Zabuza here is under Heineken's protection of Konoha. We're watching him and we have asked him to escort us to Kiri. You won't be arresting anyone. I'm just here to talk with your Mizukage, Kushina said, and immediately people tensed and tightened their weapons harder. What could Konoha have to say to Mizukage-sama? A man with an eye patch asked coming forward. Kushina narrowed her eyes, glaring at the person. Plus I doubt you're in the position to demand anything, he said, and it happened in a flash as everyone saw a blur of red hair cross the field. He turned his head to see a sword to his jugular. Kushina swiftly closed the distance and figured that the tough act had gone on long enough, as she had better things to do than deal with this. What speed, someone said while the man waved his hand. People instantly dropped their weapons while Kushina grinned. Was that so hard? She asked, and the man growled before Kushina tightened her grip over her sword. Just send word to your Mizukage. The Red Death has come to see you, Kushina said, letting the man go. He gasped for his life as he could feel that just one wrong move and his body and head would be 2 separate objects. And why should I? He asked while Kushina chuckled and brushed her hair. Because in that one move I could have killed you all, but didn't, she said while Zabuza raised his eyebrows in surprise. The man gulped before he ordered everyone not to attack the envoy nor Zabuza. People did as they were commanded while he walked off. I shall go and inform Mizukage-sama. In the meantime you shall wait at the entrance to the village until she grants you admittance, he said, and the mist cleared, giving Zabuza and Kushina a good view of Kiri as a whole. Zabuza rejoined Kushina while she turned to him. Told you they wouldn't attack you, she said, and his sweat dropped. Please, we just barely got away with that, and are you sure that she's going to know who you are just from that? Zabuza asked, and Kushina grinned. She nodded her head with a sure smile. If it was her cousin, then she would know the significance in that name. Oh, she'll know, and the reaction I get on her face will be one that I would want to take a picture of. Databane, Kushina answered, and Zabuza could only hope that she was right. Mizukage Mansion being the Mizukage of Kiri got you lot of things. It got you prestige, notoriety, power, and free stuff. Yep, you got to get things for free so long as you were in good relations with your people. However, there was something you couldn't get. One thing, just one thing. What was that? Freedom. Mei Terumi, Kiri's Mizukage, snorted while placing her elbow on the table. Bullshit, it was all bullshit. Never-ending, always rising paperwork. The end never justified the means when it came to this type of thing. Mei sighed and leaned her head gently on the table while brushing her auburn hair that covered one of her eyes. The War of Kiri had ended for her 2 years ago and she was doing well in managing the village, but she just wished that something exciting would happen. Oh, who am I kidding? Nothing exciting ever happens here, Mei said while she blew another heavy sigh from her soft-looking lips. That all seemed to change from one knock on the door. Mei leaned up from her desk and straightened her attire, but didn't seem to really care as she kept her elbow on the table and her head in her hand. Come in, she said rather sadly, and the door opened up. Mei looked to see her secretary, Ao, come through the door. Mizukage-sama, urgent news. It seems that Konoha is here, Ao said, and Mei was initially surprised. She couldn't imagine what Konoha would be doing in this place of all places. Oh? And what could that woman want with me? Mei asked as Ao knew she was referring to Tsunade. She was rather happy that now 2 women had the Kage throne, but something about it left a bad taste in her mouth. She wasn't sure why, but it just seemed that way. Well, Mizukage-sama. It seems that Konoha had an envoy to us. They were escorted by Zabuza, he told her, and Mei immediately jumped at the mentioning of Zabuza's name. Seeing one of her old friends again might just put the woman in a good mood. Key word was might, as she still realized Zabuza's reputation. Oh, Zazu-kun is back, huh? Mei asked with a smile while Ao's sweat dropped. That's right, Mizukage-sama, but he also had the envoy and she told us to tell you something. She said that the Red Death has come to see you, Ao said, and immediately the color drained from Mei's face. Ao noticed his leader drop to her seat in terror. She gulped and gulped one more time. That was only one person and she didn't have to guess who it might be. TTT, the what? Mei stuttered while Ao repeated his words, much to Mei's horror. The Red Death, Mizukage-sama, he said, not seeing the issue before Mei got up. She paced the floor multiple times while she bit her thumb. Okay, I can do this. So she's pissed. Yeah, I might figure that. Ao, where is she now? Mei asked and Ao pointed. I'm behind the door, he said, and Mei widened her eyes before the door opened. Mei backed towards the glass window behind her while Kushina and Zabuza came inside. Hey Kushina. Long time, no see? Mei asked while Kushina cracked her knuckles. She smiled and smiled while her hair moved up and down. Nice to see you, Mei. Here, come give your cousin Kushina a big hug, Kushina said while Mei nervously laughed. See, come on Kushina, that was so long ago. You're not that angry, are you? Mei asked while Kushina chuckled. Mad? Mad at what? What do I have to be mad at? The fact that you swindled me out of my money? The fact that you left home without a word? Or the simple fact that you always burnt the food that I cooked? Kushina shouted while Mei gulped again. Someone save me. Mei shouted in her mind. Somewhere near Otogakure, one day later Naruto, Sasuke, Yura and Yuna dropped to the ground with all of them lightly huffing. They had been trying to run all night, but tried to also take their breaks sparingly. Oto wasn't that far from Wave in the end and they were able to make up for a lack of time. Sasuke, where is it? Naruto asked and the Uchiha pointed. Right there. See that? Sasuke asked and sure enough Naruto saw a small dugout in the ground covered by the trees. Yuna and Yura glanced at each other before glaring at the hole. And he might be in there? Yuna asked, which got her a nod from Sasuke. Yuna, in order for this to work I'm going to need you both to stay out here. Naruto and I will go inside. If we're lucky then we can get him while he's alone, Sasuke said and Naruto turned to him. And how do we do that? Naruto asked while Sasuke stood to his feet. He turned to Naruto and drew his blade at the blonde's face. Yura and Yuna widened their eyes while Naruto glared hard at Sasuke. Guess, was all the Uchiha told him. Inside the base Orochimaru growled in pain as he could feel his weak body deteriorating. It was really becoming a fucking pain and to top it all off, Sasuke Uchiha was gone from his grasp and he didn't know where the ungrateful boy went. Kabuto! Orochimaru shouted and Kabuto appeared at his side. Yes Orochimaru-sama? Kabuto answered before offering Orochimaru his medication. The Sannin looked at the tray of pills and water before slamming it out of his face. Kabuto gasped before turning back to Orochimaru. I'm sorry Orochimaru-sama. A body is being prepared for you right now, Kabuto said while Orochimaru hissed. He didn't want a body. He wanted the Sasuke's body. This was the day that he would get the Sharingan from that revenge-minded arrogant brat. All the time he had been training the brunette was for getting him that perfect body. Just get out Kabuto, Orochimaru said and Kabuto quickly left before he angered his master even further. Kabuto walked the halls before biting his thumb slightly. This isn't good. I have to find Sasuke-kun before Orochimaru-sama's body fades. He doesn't have much time left, Kabuto said to himself before he heard a snort. So, it seems that I was right. I knew you might be here. Kabuto quickly looked up only to see Sasuke grinning at him with Naruto passed out over his shoulder. The blonde groaned before Sasuke smirked. Too weak of a challenge dobe, Sasuke said while Kabuto narrowed his eyes. Leaving us wasn't a good thing to do Sasuke. Orochimaru-sama is very angry right now, Kabuto said while Sasuke snorted. He didn't mind me going off before and why should he mind now? I do what I want. Besides I only went back to tie up some loose ends. Like this idiot, Sasuke said with Naruto on him. Kabuto glanced at the blonde before snorting. And why would Orochimaru-sama care about the Kyuubi Jinchuriki? Kabuto asked while Sasuke shrugged his shoulders. Hey, the guy's obsessed with immortality. I figured that having regenerative chakra might make him a little happier. Was I wrong? Sasuke asked and Kabuto widened his eyes. Truth be told, Kabuto was fascinated by Naruto's healing powers as well as the influence of the fox. He could make a breakthrough in the medical world if he had the Kyuubi Jinchuriki to study on. As you can see, he's much too indisposed to do anything. Do with the dobe what you'd like to do, Sasuke said flinging Naruto to the ground. Ouch, damn it Sasuke, you didn't have to fucking drop me like last week's garbage, Naruto said in his thoughts while Kabuto looked at the unconscious ninja. This might just put you in Orochimaru's good favor. Now then, how about I just take him off your hands? Kabuto asked while Sasuke rolled his eyes. He then shrugged his shoulders and snorted. Do whatever the hell you want. I don't really care, Sasuke said, walking off towards Orochimaru's room to go and apologize for his actions. Meanwhile, Kabuto leaned Naruto against the wall and chuckled. Looks like you're not a match for Sasuke-kun after all. I said it before and I'll say it again, you have no ninja talent, Kabuto said, and that was all before Naruto gave a hidden smirk. Do it, Kit. Teach that fucker that you don't mess with the greatest bijou in the world's container and get away with it. Yes sir, Naruto said before he jumped up in a burst of speed, surprising the hell out of Kabuto before the blonde slammed his fist into Kabuto's stomach. However, Naruto didn't stop there before he grabbed his sword and did a downward slash towards Kabuto, only for his blade to be blocked. Boy, I've met some stupid and gullible people before, but you just take the cake, team. It went exactly as Sasuke said it would, Naruto said while Kabuto growled. What are you talking about? Kabuto asked while Naruto snickered. Kabuto didn't get his answer before Naruto slammed his foot, sending the medic across the opposite hall. Kabuto growled and got to his feet, but strangely Naruto wasn't coming for him. He stood in the middle of the hall and chuckled. Are you coming after me, loser? Kabuto asked while Naruto shook his head. Leave it to the pedo's personal screw toy to try and mess with him. Oh no, it's just the opposite. I'm not coming at you. You're supposed to try and get past me to your master, Naruto answered, and before long Kabuto widened his eyes. Orochimaru was in danger and Naruto was the one thing standing in his way. The blonde gave a confident grin and twirled his sword around. Now then, let's start the game of can Kabuto save his master in time, Naruto said while Kabuto cursed the entire world to hell for this moment. With Sasuke, the Uchiha continued to roam the familiar halls of the base before he came up to a door. Sasuke knew what he was getting himself into and was more than prepared for it if he needed to be. The Uchiha sighed before opening the doorway. I said leave me alone, Kabuto, Orochimaru said before he noticed Sasuke staring at him with that same emotionless expression. You've looked better. Well, actually no you haven't, Sasuke said to him while Orochimaru growled. He tried to stand to his feet, but Sasuke pinned him to the chair with his Raiton chakra coursing through his hand. Sasuke, you dare. After everything I did for you, Orochimaru said, sounding like some devastated girlfriend to the Uchiha, which strangely put a very ugly taste in Sasuke's mouth before he disregarded it. What's it matter to you? You only train me to use my body for your weird fetishes. Sorry, but I don't roll that way. Besides, you're going to tell me something. Where is Itachi? You know, don't you? Sasuke asked and Orochimaru chuckled painfully. You really are a fool. You think you can kill Itachi without me? I made you who you are and I will have your body, Sasuke. Orochimaru said before Sasuke allowed the curse mark to take over. He threw off the top of his Heineken shirt and watched as his wings sprouted behind him. Sasuke's Raiton intensified, but he watched as Orochimaru disappeared and in his place was a rather large and white snake, but the only reason Sasuke could tell it was Orochimaru was because it had his face. Very creepy in the Uchiha's eyes, but he ignored it. Or at least he tried to. Weirdo, Sasuke said while Orochimaru hissed at him. This is my true form, Uchiha Sasuke. After all my experiments, then now I have attained immortality. Your eyes, your body, your soul is mine. Orochimaru hollered as he lunged for Sasuke. The Uchiha jumped into the air to dodge the strike to his being as he watched Orochimaru slither around like the damn snake he was. Humph, all I see is an abomination that needs to be exterminated. You think you're a match for me? Yeah right, Sasuke said before he stopped his Raiton chakra and took a hold of his sword. He was now a proud member of Heineken, he had his mother back, he learned the true about his clan, even about Itachi. He had other Uchiha in his life. He wasn't alone anymore. And it was all because of Naruto. How about you just die already? Uchiha no Hanran, Reigakure no Zetsubo, Uchiha Rebellion, Despair of the Hidden Lightning, Sasuke shouted, and Orochimaru could only watch as lightning sprayed from Sasuke's sword in a spectacular show of fireworks before Orochimaru saw Sasuke disappear from his view. "Disappear," Sasuke said, and with a clink of his sword back in its sheath, Orochimaru saw the world turn upside down as his head popped from his body with a single trace of lightning coming from it. The Uchiha turned and watched Orochimaru's body fall to the ground lifeless while Sasuke snorted. "Weak," he said, but that thought quickly vanished as Orochimaru strapped himself around Sasuke's body. The Uchiha narrowed his eyes at his target while Orochimaru hissed. He opened his mouth wide to devour Sasuke like he planned, but he didn't get the chance to as Sasuke raised up his hand. "Chidori Nagashi," Sasuke shouted as his entire body lit up Raitun chakra. Orochimaru shrieked from the pain of being electrocuted while Sasuke's Sharingan spun in a complete circular motion. "I said disappear," Sasuke said while Orochimaru gasped. He could feel his life ending fast. He was weak. He needed a body, but he couldn't get one. Seeing only one way out, Orochimaru begged. "Sasuke, I can give you more power. You need me to kill Itachi. You are making a big mistake," Orochimaru said while Sasuke closed his eyes. "I don't see it that way." "Now then, Uchiha no Hanran, Chidori no Mai, Uchiha Rebellion, Thousand Birds Dance," Sasuke mumbled before he vanished from Orochimaru's grip. The snake Sannin widened his eyes before he noticed Sasuke heading for the door. "I have cut you more than 34 times. You're finished," Sasuke said, and just like he said, pieces of Orochimaru began to hit the floor while he yelled. He cursed Sasuke, he cursed his heritage, and he cursed his brother. Why he did these things Sasuke didn't know, but it was sort of amusing in a sense. Sasuke watched as Orochimaru dropped to the ground. Sasuke also didn't miss the small white snake that tried to run away before he stabbed it dead. "Good riddance," he said before walking off. With Naruto scowled as he slammed Kabuto across the hall, sending the medic Nin skidding back. He placed his sword on his shoulder and looked at his wrist like he was looking at a watch. "Running out of time, team," Naruto said while Kabuto scowled at him. It was only when Naruto glared back that he felt the full pressure of death on his face. Naruto narrowed his eyes and walked forward. Kabuto was frozen in place by the simple ki exuding from Naruto's body. What is this pressure? Why do I feel like I'm going to die here? He's just a brat, a no-good ninja. Why? 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 Kabuto yelled out in his mind before he noticed Naruto's seal glow brightly. The blonde was angry, and with good reason too. People who try to steal from Shin, they resurrect the dead and dishonor him. Tell me, Kabuto, do you think death is a game? Where if you die you don't have to worry 'cause you can come back? Well, it's not like that at all, and I'll show it to you right now, Naruto raising his sword over his head. Kabuto gulped and realized that he was feeling a fear that not even Orochimaru could give him. "Honshu, Naruto said, and before he could get any further, Kabuto stabbed his leg with a kunai and managed to shun Shin out of the area while Naruto closed his eyes. That was evil. That was too evil. You are a fucking demon. Great job, kid, Kyubi complimented, and while Naruto wasn't sure whether to accept that or not, he just did out of sheer happiness that his friend was talking to him again. "I try," Naruto said before he felt a tap on his shoulder. Naruto turned his head to see Sasuke looking at him. The Uchiha gave him a thumbs up and Naruto nodded his head. He then channeled his Honshu to his eyes and Sasuke watched as they became crystal clear while Naruto took to his realm of spirits. The blonde looked around and it saddened his heart to hear so many people wailing about being kept as Orochimaru's toys, but that was all before they turned around. "Shikin-sama!" They all shouted in unison. Boys, girls, men, women, people of all ages were looking at Naruto, and the blonde rubbed the back of his head. It was then that Naruto turned around to Sasuke and growled. "Ah, so many of the tortured. So this is where they are, Orochimaru said, cackling while the other spirits growled. They were about to charge at the rogue soul of Orochimaru before they all noticed Naruto raise his hand for them to stop. Sasuke only saw Naruto raise his hand before he heard Naruto speak. Don't go near him. Rather, I want you all to watch this, Naruto said, and the spirits nodded to their master and stayed put. Orochimaru raised an eyebrow on why they stopped before he turned to see Naruto staring directly at him. Well, isn't this an amazing turn of events? And what does the little Kyuubi brat think he can do? Orochimaru asked before Naruto touched his seal. Kuchiyos no Jutsu, Naruto said, and immediately Orochimaru had every right to be afraid as he widened his eyes only to see the true-to-death Shinigami in his face. He glared hard at the mortal before scowling. You, the Shinigami said while Orochimaru widened his eyes. He then turned to Naruto and the realization hit him even more that time. Shin, here is my offering. Take it and be happy. Take him into the deepest parts of hell, Naruto said while the Shinigami turned to Naruto. That is something I cannot do, Shin said, surprising Naruto, the spirits, and Orochimaru. What? Why not? Sasuke killed him. Naruto said angrily. The longer Orochimaru was around, the angrier Naruto got about him. Orochimaru had a big-ass smile on his which seemed to piss Naruto off to no end. Calm down, Shirkan. The reason why I can't drag him through the depths of hell like you would want is because this isn't all of his soul, Shinigami said while everyone else was confused. His soul is spread throughout too many people. I need at least 70% of him to fully expel him from the world. This right here is only a good 45, Shin said while Naruto cursed. 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Damn it all to hell. So his chakra is spread into others as well. Through the curse mark? Naruto asked, and most of the spirits nodded their heads. Yes, Shikin-sama. Orochimaru is very separated, but if you take away the people who have curse marks or remove them, then you can take them, the spirit said to him while Orochimaru chuckled. And what makes you think you can remove it without killing the person? Orochimaru asked, and Naruto closed his eyes. He thought everything over. He sighed and racked his brain. Suddenly, he opened his eyes and smiled. We're going to need Itachi more than I thought, Naruto said to himself before Naruto grabbed the part of Orochimaru's soul. Now then, as for you. I will be taking you, or more precisely Shin will be taking you. I'll keep collecting parts of you until you get to 70% to where I can rip the rest of your soul from your damn body, then you'll be gone. Damn, I thought I could get the replacement for Yuna too, Naruto said to himself before Shin glanced at the Orochimaru's soul and then folded his arms. No, this is just fine, Shirkan. The thing I didn't tell you about those people is this. Since they are specific people that I want gone from this world, then their souls are worth more than the average person. So for me to take this amount of his soul, then, he is worth the entire soul of someone else, the Shinigami said in a matter-of-fact tone. Naruto raised his eyebrows in fascination of such a thing. He didn't know it went like that. Oh. Then take him, Shin. My payment, Naruto said, and Shin immediately glared hard on Orochimaru. He stretched out his purple hands and grabbed Orochimaru's soul. No, you can't do this to me. Do you know who I am? Orochimaru shouted out while the Shinigami's eyes glared hard. You are the bane of life. You wish for immortality and disrespect the laws of death. I met you during the Chunin exams, but you have always been on my agenda of getting when your soul was dead. You're mine and you won't be getting away, Shin said, raising his arms into the air. Orochimaru let out a long scream before he was completely collected by Shin. Naruto watched the show impassively, and so did Kyuubi. Neither had any sort of qualms about this at all. It was doing the entire world a service. Now then, Shirkan. Meet with me tonight. It is time that you decided, Shin said, and Naruto turned to him. What do you mean? Naruto asked, and the Shinigami folded his arms with his stoic expression still present. I will tell you tonight, but now you must go now, the Shinigami said before he faded from Naruto's view. Sasuke continued to watch Naruto for a little while before he noticed Naruto stop the concentration of Honshu into his eyes. Naruto glanced towards Sasuke and smiled. Let's go, he said, and Sasuke merely nodded before Naruto glanced at his arm, which was bleeding profusely. Sasuke, what happened to your arm? Naruto asked, and Sasuke looked at it before cursing underneath his breath. I got carried away with one of my sword techniques and I just cut myself. I'll take care of it when we get some rest. We'll then head towards 3 people. People who I know will help us find Itachi, and upon his death, we'll be more than willing to leave this place, but we've got to move, Sasuke said, and Naruto agreed before the two walked out. With Kabuto, the man quickly appeared in a tree and huffed as he dropped to the ground. He put a hand on his chest to realize that his heart was beating at an incredible rate. He just couldn't stop it, the shaking of his hands, arms, and legs. He felt powerless to stop Naruto, but the white aura that exuded from his body, it was like nothing that Kabuto had ever seen before. Such amazing presence, a power that commanded respect from everything around it. Kabuto could easily be sure that it was something other than the Kyuubi's chakra, or even Naruto's own chakra, but then what was it? Now I have to go back to the lab and grab my notes about Orochimaru-sama. I still can't believe it. If Sasuke actually managed to kill Orochimaru-sama, then Kabuto placed a finger to his chin and decided to think. He was now in charge of the entire organization that had been under Orochimaru. He could now do a lot more experiments without having to worry about him. Looks like I can get back to my cell research, Kabuto said with a wicked grin across his face before leaving the area. With Tsunade and Jiraiya stood in Tsunade's office, just dumbfounded by her words. When she had called him into the Hokage mansion and said it was urgent news concerning Naruto, he wondered if it had something to do with the blonde seal and Kyuubi, but it turned out to be much more confusing. I'm sorry, Haim, but can you run that by me again? Jiraiya asked, folding his arms. Something like this, it just didn't happen in the world. Tsunade grumbled and turned to Jiraiya with a serious expression on her face. Jiraiya, how many times do I have to tell you before you get it? Naruto has a contract with the Shinigami, Tsunade told him while Jiraiya folded his arms. But why would the god of death be interested in Naruto? Hell, how does anyone even meet the Shinigami? Jiraiya asked, and Tsunade folded her arms before sitting back in her seat. Based on what Naruto told me, then it seems that the Shinigami found interest in him. It really did scare me when he told me that he was supposed to die before Kakashi actually got him to Konoha. Jiraiya, I promised Naruto that I wouldn't say anything, but as his sensei then I felt you had a right to know, Tsunade said while Jiraiya chuckled. Tsunade looked at him in confusion only to see Jiraiya with a longing look in his eyes. Sorry, Haim, but you talk of rights and all, it just makes me feel that as his sensei then Naruto had the right to know his parents. At his age I'm sure he was more than curious. I probably should have told him by that time, Jiraiya said while Tsunade sighed. You know why we couldn't, Tsunade answered before she heard Jiraiya chuckle. Then it would all make sense. Kushina being around, the Uchiha getting his mother back. Hayashi actually smiling. Yep, it all is making sense now, Jiraiya said, and Tsunade resisted the urge to crack a smile before she nodded her head. And in the end the only real responsibility we had to him we didn't even do. It's no wonder he'd keep a secret from all of us, Tsunade said, sort of depressing herself, to which Jiraiya nodded, although it was rather reluctant to say the least. I know what you mean, but we'll just have to do better for him. And the first thing is getting to not spreading this thing around. You said that only a select few of Umbu, Hayashi, and the Heineken team know about this? Jiraiya asked while Tsunade closed her eyes. She rubbed the back of her head and nodded, though Jiraiya could see that she was anxious. They were, but I think we're recalling another Kyuubi incident. Yesterday a Jonin asked me something. He said he heard that Naruto was holding a legendary contract and wanted to know if it was true, Tsunade said, to which Jiraiya paled. What? It's spreading already? Jiraiya asked while Tsunade nodded her head. She cursed and turned to Jiraiya. Yeah, Bor told me. He had interrogated 2 Umbu in his division about it and they confessed to one telling his friend about it. I had them both executed for the act of spilling the secret, but I don't know how many people know. Hell, I don't even want to know if the civilians know. Hayashi isn't one to talk about things concerning other people. Not with the way he and Naruto have become friends. Sometimes I think Naruto would trust Hayashi's opinion more than anyone else's, Tsunade said while Jiraiya sighed. This is almost too much to handle for one day. What are we going to do if Naruto finds out? We're already on thin ice with his trust as it is, Jiraiya said while Tsunade nodded. I know, and even more is that I have to send Shikamaru, Asuma, Izumo and Kotetsu on a mission soon. I don't have the time to deal with this shit, Tsunade said while Jiraiya agreed. It was weird, but they could feel it in their bodies. Something was about to happen and it would be bad. With Sakura and her friends, all of the Sakura and the rest of the Rookie 12 minus Naruto and Sasuke were sitting around near a small shop just catching up with each other. Really, Niji? You got your father back? And Hinata got her mother back? Ino asked, looking as shocked as ever. Niji nodded and everyone could tell he was more than happy about such a thing. Tenten was very happy for Niji, as was Lee and everyone else. Man, Niji's lucky. You know, the village is talking about that whole Shinigami thing. Think we'll get that lucky? Chuji asked while Shikamaru just rolled his eyes and shook his head. It's too troublesome to think about. I doubt that'll happen again, Shikamaru said, which got him a groan from Ino and a laugh from Kiba. But also word is through the Kunoichi grapevine is that Naruto has a legendary contract, Ino said, to which Kiba snorted. What could that loser possibly have? All he's got is the Toad contract, Kiba said, which got him a smack across the head from Sakura. Keep in mind that the Toads were used by Jiraiya-sama as well as Yondaime-sama. They are one of the 3 legendary contracts of Konoha, Sakura informed him, to which Kiba snorted. Yeah, whatever, Kiba said before Tenten spoke. Yeah, but if Naruto has the contract with the Toads, then knowing his connection to Jiraiya-sama isn't that much of a surprise. So why are people making such a big deal about it? Tenten asked. No one seemed to have an answer for them before Ino turned to Sakura. Speaking of Naruto, does anyone know where he and Sasuke have been? I haven't seen them for weeks, hell, maybe even a few months. What have they been up to? Ino asked, causing Sakura to hold her head down. She really wanted to know how Sasuke and Naruto were doing as well. She was more than happy that Sasuke was back where he belonged, but not seeing him, Naruto or her sensei just sort of depressed her. She still trained hard and she still managed to hold a very good position in the medical world as Tsunade's apprentice, but she just felt secluded for some reason. Everyone seemed to notice that the mood in the air changed, and Tenten wisely changed the subject. Well, anyway, Hinata, how is life with your mother now? She asked while Hinata smiled. Ota-san is much happier now. He and Ka-san are training Hanabi and I in more techniques. Hanabi-chan is smiling more and she talks with me a lot longer. Tu-san is kinder to the side branch of the family. Also, Hizashi-sama has been named as the head of the side branch again. The elders are simply amazed. Also, Tu-san is kinder to men. I'm no longer a failure in his eyes. I'm so happy, but when either Hanabi, Niji, or I ask them how they came back, they never tell us. They only say that it doesn't matter so long as they are there, and I believe them, Hinata said to her friends. Everyone nodded their heads agreeing with Still, if it's so legendary a contract that people are talking about it, then I can't wait to see it, Kiba said while Shino touched his glasses. I wonder if Naruto-san and his contract and this Shinigami thing are connected, Shino said before people stayed silent, but not for long. Ha ha ha. Oh, that's rich Shino. Who says he doesn't have a sense of humor? Like the death god would be interested in someone like Naruto, Ino said before Lee arched an eyebrow. What's wrong with Naruto-kun? His youth is very bright. Lee said while Ino snorted. Okay. But I find that highly unlikely, Ino said while Shikamaru glanced at Shino. They both shared a common nod of agreement, but didn't say anything more than that. Oh well, if it isn't you guys. What's the gathering for? Kurenai asked coming out of the blue. Ah, Kurenai-sensei. Shino was just telling a little joke. Did you hear about the rumor of Naruto having a legendary contract? Kiba asked while Kurenai narrowed her eyes. Yeah, I heard something about that. Still, you mustn't always believe rumors. It's things like that that cause uncertainty. Now then, Shikamaru, you have to meet with Asuma, Izumo-san and Kotetsu-san soon. You have a mission, Kurenai told him while Shikamaru sighed. What a drag. Fine, I'll be going then, Shikamaru said walking off while Kurenai turned around. Now then, Kiba, Shino, Hinata, I do believe that we are scheduled for a training session this afternoon, Kurenai said while Kiba sighed. Shino nodded and Hinata agreed, all before seeing their sensei leave. Well, that's that. I guess I'll be going then, Kiba said while walking off, and everyone left as well. Back. In Kirigakure, Ao's sweat dropped while he saw Mei sitting down with a large lump on her head. She still tried to look as dignified as possible, but that seemed to be impossible at the moment. Meanwhile, Kushina was busy counting the large bag of yen in her hands while she gave a cheeky grin. Pleasure doing business with you, Databane, Kushina said, chuckling while Mei snorted. Zabuza and Ao glanced at each other before shrugging their shoulders and sighing all the same. But seriously, Kushina, it's good to see you. Last time I heard of you, you died, Mei said while Kushina smiled. She stepped forward and hugged her cousin. An distant family member to Kushina had married one of the Terumi clan's daughters, making the Terumi clan and Uzumaki clan relatives. It was somewhere during the Nidame Uzukage's reign when it happened. Kushina and Mei had visited each other a lot until Mei had to be transferred to Kiri while Kushina had to go to Konoha. Both had tried to keep in touch, but the problems in Kiri made it rather difficult. I know what you mean, Mei. It's really good to see you too. As you can see, I'm as fit and healthy as the last day we saw each other, Kushina said, smiling while Mei nodded her head. It's also good to see you, Zabuza. Staying out of trouble? Mei asked, causing Zabuza to snort, but nod anyway. Ao, go grab our guests some tea. I want to catch up with Kushina, Mei said while Ao nodded his head before leaving the room. So Kushina, anything happen with you lately? Mei asked and Kushina smiled. Well, it's late that you would know, but I have a son. A 16-year-old son, Kushina said while Mei widened her eyes. I have a cousin again? Oh, what's his name? Mei asked and Kushina smiled. Naruto Uzumaki, you didn't know? I had asked Sarutobi to introduce you to him when he was 10 and hopefully you could be there for him as well, Kushina said while Mei arched an eyebrow over her head. Really? I wasn't informed, or maybe it never got to Kiri, but had I known I would have gone in a heartbeat. Is he cute? Mei asked rather intently, to which Kushina noticed. Yep, the cutest he could be, Kushina said with a smile while Mei gave another smile of her own. Oh, I wouldn't mind seeing him for myself. So what brings you to Kiri? Mei asked and Kushina pointed to Zabuza. He told me about you and I just knew I had to come and see you after so long. That's really the only reason I came, Kushina said while Mei smiled with a nod. I see. Well then allow me to have a chat with you after all this time, Mei said, and Kushina agreed before sitting down. With Sasuke and Naruto. Sasuke was currently in his room with Yuna while Yura and Naruto were in the other one. Yuna was currently patching up her cousin with some bandages while she smiled. Still as reckless as ever with the Uchiha Kenjutsu. Sasuke, but that's what I miss about you, Yuna said while Sasuke snorted. He continued to hold out his arm while Yuna sprayed it over with some disinfectant. I'll be fine, it's not like I'm dying, Sasuke said before he felt Yuna flinch. He widened his eyes before cursing underneath his breath. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that, Sasuke said while Yuna shook her head. No, it's fine. Being dead, it makes you look at the world differently. You know, Sasuke, when I died the last thing I saw was you. Me wishing that I could see you one more time. To laugh and play with you one more time. I was scared, Yuna said, shivering over Sasuke's bandages. The Uchiha glanced at her before turning around. "HN," he answered while Yuna chuckled. "I'm so happy. It's thanks to Shikin-sama that I can be here and that I can see you again. You don't know how much it means to me," Yuna said while Sasuke turned around. "Are you going to cry?" he asked while she chuckled. "Please, Uchihas, don't cry. We just don't." "And never," Yuna said before Sasuke turned around. He could see Yuna rubbing her eyes with a smile on her face. Her long brunette hair falling down her sides. She seemed so tomboyish at times, but Sasuke sighed. What is it with this woman, he wondered to himself before he noticed Yuna looking at him. "Well, let's get you bandaged up," she said suddenly, however that all seemed to end before Yuna widened her eyes. She could feel something soft on her lips. She looked up only to see Sasuke, her family, her cousin, kissing her full on the lips. "SS Sasuke," Yuna said, but the male Uchiha didn't let her finish what she might have wanted to before he deepened it further. Yuna sighed before Sasuke pushed her to the bed. "If you're scared, then I'll just make it so that you'll never die again," Sasuke told her, and Yuna gasped out before Sasuke leaned up from her. "Sasuke, you can't do that. We're family," Yuna said, but Sasuke snorted. "I don't really care if we are." "Why? Tell me why," Sasuke said while Yuna seemed confused. "Why what?" she asked, and Sasuke growled. "Why you? Ever since academy I never cared for girls. To me, they were just a damn pain in the ass with their Sasuke-kun this or Sasuke-kun that. I hated it all, but you. I let you do whatever the hell you want and I just don't care. 2 days ago I let you drag me around the island like it was nothing to me when I could have been training. Why is it that I dash?" Sasuke trailed off, leaving it to the imagination. Yuna looked at him and sighed. Maybe right now it was the first time she had seen her cousin as a man, a potential mate. Yuna then glanced at Sasuke's shirtless body and shuddered. "Sasuke, we. I don't know. I couldn't do that to Mikoto-sama. Do you know what she would think of us if we did that?" Yuna asked while Sasuke closed his eyes. "Humph, you know what? Just forget it," Sasuke said, getting up from the bed and walking to his side. "No, Sasuke, wait a minute. Please just listen," Yuna said, and Sasuke paused. He folded his arms and turned around. "What?" he asked, clearly annoyed at some of this. The Uchiha was 16 years old and so was Yuna, technically. How could she worry about what his mother had to say? "Sasuke, I have never been desired before," Yuna said while Sasuke arched an eyebrow. "And why not?" he asked while Yuna shrugged her shoulders. "I'm not sure. I was just too focused on my career to care for a relationship, and you always held a special place in my heart. No doubts about it, Sasuke. I do care about you, but don't you care about how people will view you?" Yuna asked while Sasuke looked at her with a blank face. "Yuna, I was a self-righteous, egotistical Uchiha who was obsessed with revenge enough to shun nearly everyone in my village and leave said village to go to an S-rank missing nin who was deemed insane just to get the power to kill my brother whom I now know the truth about. Yuna, if I was going to care about what people thought of me then I would have done it a long time ago, Sasuke said, and Yuna looked at him blankly before laughing. Wow, you say you used to be self-righteous, egotistical Uchiha. Whenever did you stop? Yuna asked before Sasuke's eyebrow twitched. Excuse me, he asked while Yuna shrugged her shoulders. I mean, that HN thing is just about as egotistical as it gets. Don't you think? Yuna asked with a smile. HN was Sasuke's response before he got into his side of the bed, but he stopped when Yuna wrapped her arms around him. So you really feel that way? You don't care, she asked, and Sasuke shook his head. Never have, never really will, he said, and Yuna smiled. She then chuckled and closed her eyes. Since when did you become a smooth talker? She asked, and Sasuke snorted. Never, I just did this now, he said before Yuna turned him around. Is that so? Well, are you going to tell Shikin-sama? Yuna asked, and Sasuke immediately paused. He had no way of knowing how Naruto could react to such a thing. The guy was sometimes dense, but still. I think I'll wait, he said, and Yuna closed her eyes. You know you're mean. You stole my first kiss just like that, Yuna said, and Sasuke snorted. And I'm about to steal the second, third, and fourth ones, he said, and before Yuna could register that, Sasuke quickly pushed his lips back to hers, making Yuna sigh in absolute bliss. Cheater, was also she said. With Naruto oblivious to what was going on in Sasuke's room, Naruto and Yura were lip-locking as well. Ni-sama, we have to get up early tomorrow. We should go to bed, Yura said between breaths while Naruto parted from her. He grinned with a nod before giving her another quick kiss on the lips. Yeah, you're right. Knowing Sasuke and Yuna they are already sleeping, Naruto said, and Yura nodded her head with a smile before she went to her bed and went to sleep. Naruto, however, got up and walked outside. He quickly summoned Shin to his side and decided to ask. Now what do you mean I have to choose? Naruto asked, and Shin folded his arms. He closed his eyes, giving the both of them a moment's silence. It's simple. You are realizing your potential as my summoner a lot faster than I anticipated. Which is something that I truly find interesting, mind you. At the beginning I said that I didn't mind it, Shin said, and Naruto raised an eyebrow. Mind what? Naruto asked, but Shin seemed to evade that question, opting to give Naruto more of an explanation to things. He knew that the blonde wouldn't be happy with this decision, but it had to be made, and Shin preferred it to be done as soon as possible. Simple. Your Honshu has now destroyed nearly all of your chakra and replacing it. You realize that you are now using your Honshu a lot more than your chakra itself. It's because chakra is a less condensed and concentrated form of Honshu. You are still able to preform your shinobi skills, but you realize that they are stronger because Honshu is naturally the energy of Kami and the gods. Naturally your mother and all the people you've revived have this also. Your summons have it as well. Do you remember when you asked me that question? Shin asked, and Naruto shook his head. You asked me if I could make you my official summoner. Granted, you're my only summoner, but that's beside the point. You are already well known in the spirit realm already. So it is time for you to choose, Shin said, and Naruto nodded hesitantly. Am all right? Naruto asked while Shin sighed. It's simple. You must either choose the Toad contract or the Shinigami contract. You can't have both anymore, Shin said, and Naruto widened his eyes. What? Naruto stood slack-jawed at what the Shinigami was telling him to. Naruto couldn't imagine his life without the Toads. They had been with him for a full 3 years. He had made a lot of friends, and now he was being told that he had to choose. However, it was the same with Shin. Naruto had the Shinigami contract for 2 years and he had noticed that he'd been using Shin and the others a lot more than the toads themselves. Shin, why are you telling me to do this now? I thought you said it would be fine, Naruto said to the powerful spirit in front of him, and Shin didn't budge with any kind of emotion. He knew what he said and why he said it. As I said, you are realizing your potential a lot faster than I anticipated, and this is why I'm telling you that you must choose now. This isn't something that can wait, Shin said, and Naruto cursed. He was hoping that maybe he could have some time to think about it. On the one hand, he had his mother back because of Shin, and so many other good things were happening because he had Shin, and on the other hand he was giving up the only real link he had with his father, Minato Namikaze. If I didn't choose you, then what would happen? Naruto asked, and Shin still didn't give Naruto any kind of emotion. He could see the distress in Naruto's eyes over this and closed his eyes while speaking in his usual authoritative tone. One that Naruto had all but gotten used to by now. If you don't take the Shinigami contract, then it will disappear from your hand and the seals across your body will vanish as well. Your ability to use Honshu will be returned to chakra and you won't be able to communicate with the spirit realm anymore. Spirits won't recognize you as a Shurikhan and the summons in your sword will disperse, Shin said, and Naruto shuddered. That was a lot to lose for the blonde Heineken member. He really didn't want that, but then the most important question came into his head. What about my mother? Sasuke's mother? Everyone that I revived, what about them? Naruto asked, and the response was for Shin to glare evenly at his summoner. He could see the shakable doubt in Naruto's eyes as he responded. They will all live, and will you? Granted, your souls will be accessible to me again and their Honshu will be replaced with chakra once again, but when they die, then they too shall become mine. In essence, the process for me would go as it normally does, Shin said, and Naruto looked at the ground. He cursed underneath his breath. Visions of Shikaku and fun times flashed into his head. Naruto had so much to thank the toads for. Almost nothing could ever replace them, but with Shin, he got Orochimaru, he got his mother, and he just felt that with Shin he could really bring the world to peace. Somehow, someway, he could do it if he had Shin by his side. Can I at least say goodbye? Naruto asked, and Shin unfolded his arms. Contrary to popular belief, Shin wasn't a cold, heartless bastard that just stole your soul when it was convenient. He actually did care about some things, but being around death all the time, then it made you cold, but never cold enough to deny someone a right. Yes, you may. I shall give you the time that you need, Shin said, and Naruto thanked him. He watched as Shin vanished from view to give Naruto the time he wanted. Naruto stayed at the ground a little bit, and he even thanked Kyubi that the fox was being quiet. Kyubi knew the situation and he wouldn't speak about anything this time. The blonde would speak when he wanted to, and Kyubi would just listen before going back to himself and arguing with his friend as usual. Naruto slowly raised his hand towards his mouth and bit his thumb. He went through the hand signs for the summons he would use for the last time. Kuchi-ose no Jutsu, Naruto said with a sad smile, and immediately a puff of smoke came in front of him. What's up, man? I haven't seen you in a while, Gamakichi said to Naruto. Naruto smiled at the large toad and rubbed the back of his head. Nothing much, man. Nothing much. I just thought I'd see how you and the guys were doing, Naruto said, and Gamakichi gave him a thumbs up. It's all good, bro. Say, what's the matter? You look sad. You're never one to look sad, Naruto, Gamakichi said with a suspicious glare, and Naruto chuckled as he leaned against a tree. He then held out his hand while Gamakichi looked at it. Weirdly. Goodbye, man, Naruto said while Kichi raised an eyebrow towards him. He didn't know if this was some kind of game, but he then noticed the tears on Naruto's face. He widened his eyes before he looked down at Naruto's hand in realization. He frowned and smiled. I guess I can't ask for candy anymore, Kichi said while Naruto chuckled. He nodded his head silently while Kichi summoned the scroll. He unfurled it and looked at Naruto's name on it. 3 years we've been together, I guess. Time sure does catch up with you, Gamabunta's son said while Naruto still kept his hand out. Kichi then placed the scroll down on the ground and smiled. He took his webbed hand and grabbed Naruto's. Is it worth it? He asked, and immediately Naruto responded. Yes, it is. I will never forget you. I promise, Gamakichi, but this other contract I have. I need it and I know that I have a job to do with it, Naruto said, and that was pretty much all he needed. Kichi looked at the scroll and did a quick hand sign. He slammed the scroll and a light shined while Naruto could see the letters of his name begin to disappear. Hehe, I'm pretty sucky at long goodbyes, man. I never thought that you'd be the person I'd have to say goodbye to. You always were an idiot, but you were one of the coolest people I'll ever meet, Gamakichi said while Naruto nodded. They continued shaking hands with each other while they noticed Naruto's name disappearing. Tell Bunta that even though he never saw me as his summoner, I still enjoyed all the times I had with him. I hope to see you guys again anytime, Naruto said, and Kichi nodded with one final shake. Same here, man. You gotta do what you gotta do. Friends? Kichi asked, and Naruto snickered. Until the end, man, he said, and Naruto's name vanished completely with only Jiraiya's name left. Gamakichi furled up the scroll and turned his back to Naruto. The blonde sighed while he was sure he saw a tear fall from Gamakichi's face before the toad vanished in a puff of smoke. Naruto stayed in the forest for a little bit thinking over his actions. He looked down at the Shinigami contract. It's all over, Naruto said before he quickly spun on his heels and turned around. You can come out now, Shin. I did it, Naruto said, and just like that Shin quickly showed himself to Naruto only to see Naruto's slightly happy face. He wasn't sure why he was smiling, but maybe it was a grief smile. He could see Naruto wipe his face and tried to look serious, almost like the summoner of the Shinigami couldn't be seen crying. Especially not in front of the spirits that were probably around him. However, Naruto suddenly felt a sharp pain to his body and fell to the ground. He seemed to be doing that a lot lately. He growled and tried to withstand the pain that was going on inside him. He could feel his body burning with power. The seals on his body lit up the night sky before Naruto levitated into the air. He saw Shin open his hands while all the summons that could be seen to Naruto visibly got on their knees and bowed, keeping their heads to the ground. Shikin-sama, they all said while Kyuubi could feel it too. The intricate seals on Naruto's stomach that had originated from his hand now mixed with the seal on his stomach set to hold the Kyuubi in its prison. He then widened his eyes as Shur closed his eyes. You are worthy. You are capable. You are my summoner. Summoner Naruto Uzumaki, Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Yoko. You are the dealer of death. The grand bridge between mortals and spirits. I shall now fully acknowledge you, Shin said, and everyone visible watched as the beads wrapped around Shin's hand and came loose. They floated in the air before they compressed and quickly attached themselves to Naruto's Heineken shirt. Naruto felt a sharp pain and noticed that the beads were being absorbed into his arm. He cursed at the burning sensation, but once they were inside he could literally feel each and every beads break apart, then each settled into a different section of his body. What's happening to me? Naruto asked while Shin spoke. All of your chakra is gone. Chakra is needed to use the summoning contract. Now that you have separated, then the last remnants of your chakra are gone. Your body is now completely filled with Honshu, and as such you my complete summoner, Shin said, and Naruto floated to the ground. He felt incredible. He could feel the power of the Shinigami flowing through him while the spiritual fires danced around his body like in celebration of his accomplishment. Naruto could hear the chorus of Shikin-sama coming from every direction imaginable. He was even sure that he could hear the ones in his swords. Everyone everywhere was sending him their acknowledgement. He didn't even know how his mother was doing. With Kushina. Luckily for Kushina, her meeting with Mei had ended and she was in a hotel while Zabuza went out for a bit when it happened. Kushina felt the seals brighten across her body while she stood to her feet. She looked in the mirror and gasped out to see her entire being surrounded in fire. Something had to be happening with Naruto for this to happen. Why do I feel so strong? I feel incredible. This is amazing. Sochi, what did you do? Kushina wondered before she grabbed her sword. She could see the power surging into it. She wondered about its intake of chakra or honshu as Naruto called it, but her sword was handling it just fine. She just felt it respond to anything she wanted. It was like she was more in touch with her spiritual side more than ever. She could hear people's voices and could even see some spirits on their knees bows in the direction of west as they cried Shikin-sama over and over. Some even turned to her and bowed as they said Kushina-sama over and over. Kushina could honestly say that she could get used to this before she saw the door open. She turned back to see Zabuza looking at her in awe. She also just wanted him drop to his knees and bow. Mistress Kushina, he said to her, making Kushina widen her eyes in slight shock of his words. Yuzushiogakure Kakashi, Yugao, Yuri and Fuka watched as Mikoto, Rin and Haku got on their knees and just suddenly bowed. They were all training like normal, but Haku said she felt the sudden surge of spiritual power flow through her body, and the same could be said for Mikoto and Rin. So in response the three stopped what they were doing and bowed towards the west of their location. What's going on? Yuri asked as they continued to watch the scene of Mikoto, Haku and Rin bowing towards Naruto. Your guess is as good as mine is, Kakashi said as he opened up his orange book, much to Yuri's blush, Yugao's irritation and Fuka's amusement. The latter looked over Kakashi's shoulder to read the contents of said book and snickered. Oh wow, who writes these? Fuka asked while Kakashi giggled perversely. Why, the great Sannin himself, Jiraiya-sama, Kakashi said while Yugao folded her arms. Stupid, isn't it? Yugao asked while Fuka cackled. She quickly took the book from Kakashi's hands and went back to the beginning. Are you kidding? This is great. I've never read this Ika before. It really looks good, Fuka said while Yugao widened her eyes while shaking her head fast. But that's demeaning to women, she said while Fuka scoffed. She could see Kakashi give an eye smile while Yugao huffed at any woman actually liking such a thing while Fuka responded. Hey, a woman in the throes of passion isn't demeaning. Rather, it's quite nice. Actually, I take a little offense to you calling it smut, Fuka said while Kakashi grabbed her into a hug. Finally someone understands me, and it's a woman this time, he said while Yugao dropped her jaw. She didn't know what to say to that type of thing. I guess there are all different types of people in the world, Yugao thought to herself before they noticed Mikoto, Rin and Haku get to their feet. Are you guys back to normal now? Yugao asked while Mikoto blushed. She rubbed the back of her head sheepishly while Haku blushed in embarrassment. Kakashi snickered while Yuri opened another Fuinjutsu book, well, until they all heard a bird screech. Everyone looked into the air and saw a bird coming down. What is that? Yuri asked while Kakashi held out his arm. The bird landed down on his arm and Kakashi smiled. It's a messenger hawk, Yuri-san. One of Konoha's fastest actually. Now let's see what we've got here, Kakashi said as he opened up the scroll. He looked inside and widened his eyes. He visibly stiffened while everyone glanced at him. Kakashi, what's the matter? Mikoto asked while Kakashi narrowed his visible eye. He sighed and furled up the scroll before turning around. Konoha believes that they have found the Sanbai Bijou, Kakashi said, making everyone stiffen from his words. They didn't know what to make of such a thing. Hyuga compound Hayashi, Hinako, Hinata and Hanabi were all sitting in silence with Hinata telling the three Hyuga about her news on Naruto. So, he's supposed to have a legendary contract, is he? Hayashi asked, feigning ignorance while he sipped some tea that Hinako made him. He watched her smiling face and wondered what she could be smiling about while Hanabi leaned back. Oto-sama, if he does hold one, then what does that mean for Konoha? Hanabi asked, and in all truth Hayashi wasn't sure. The Shinigami contract, that was enough to be considered a shinobi war started and even a political war starter. However, Hayashi never once thought about the benefits the contract would hold for them. It seemed like it would be a disservice to Naruto to think so. Naruto was one of Hayashi's friends after all. The Hyuga clan leader wasn't exactly sure when his friendship with the Uzumaki had started, but he sure didn't regret it at all. Well, Hanabi, summon contracts aren't in allegiance to the village, but to the summoner. They have to obey their summoner, but never the village they come from. Also, you shouldn't proceed on rumors. Both of you. Either get facts or ask, but never assume, Hayashi said in an even tone. And besides, I'm sure Naruto-san wouldn't keep secrets from his friends if he's anything like you've described him, Hinako said, coming in. Although she could tell that from having seen Naruto herself and having talked with the blonde, she still felt the need to say that. I think you're right, Ka-sama, Hinata, before there was a knock on the door. Everyone turned to see a branch member come in. Hayashi-sama, Hinata-sama has been requested to appear before Hokage-sama immediately, he said, and Hayashi nodded his head while Hinata got to her feet. They watched her walk off while Hanabi got up and walked away also. She had a meeting with her own squad soon which left the two parents alone. What are we going to do, Hayashi? It really seems that it's getting around. I really hope nothing happens that this village is going to regret, Hinako said, and Hayashi agreed with her on that, but he wasn't about to tell anything to anyone. He never really talked that much anyway, and talking about irrelevant things just wasn't his style. I don't know, but we'll just have to wait and see, Hayashi said while Hinako nodded as she quietly got to her feet and kissed her husband on the cheek before walking off somewhere to go and get something done. With Naruto floated back down to the ground and the white light dissipated from his body. He slowly opened his eyes and saw every spirit giving him their acknowledgement. He had no idea of what to say before he smiled. Shin, Naruto said, making the death god look down to him. Naruto turned around and gave the Shinigami his warmest smile. One that he felt his summon deserved. Thank you. For everything, Naruto said, and Shin's response was to only slightly nod his head in acknowledgement before he disappeared. Naruto watched the other spirits bow and leave before he merely smiled and walked off. He had to get to sleep and he could feel that tomorrow was going to be a long day. He also couldn't stand it if the others went looking for him and he was gone. Luckily for Naruto, it wasn't long before the morning came for him as he, Yura, Yuna and Sasuke appeared outside. Yuna and Sasuke seemed to be especially close to each other, or maybe that was his imagination. He wasn't sure which one, but he left it alone while Sasuke spoke. And that's why I think we should split up. No doubt Kabuto's going to be sending out more people. Naruto, you and Yura should deal with them. Yuna and I are going to go and find Itachi. In order to do that I need to find 4 other people to take with me. Is that alright with you? Sasuke asked and Naruto sighed. I suppose that's fine if it should be. Actually, now that we've taken our Orochimaru, or at least a part of him, I was thinking that Yuna and I would head back to Uzushiogakure. Either that or have her take a crack at the bingo book for C-ranks, since I still want to test her out here. We should also. Naruto trailed off when he saw a puff of smoke. He knelt down and noticed Pakken. Yo, what's up, kid? I have a message for you from Kakashi. It seems that Konoha has located the Sanbai Jinchuriki, Pakken said while Naruto widened his eyes. He and Sasuke glared while Yura and Yuna glanced at each other. The Sanbai? Seriously? And what does that have to do with us? Naruto asked while Pakken cleared his throat. As with Konoha's instructions from Hokage-sama, you are to unite with Kakashi and investigate immediately. Understood, brat? Pakken asked while Naruto snorted. He really didn't have time for this, but orders were orders, Naruto figured. Hey Sasuke, it doesn't say if I have to or if we both have to, so why don't you and Yuna go and do what you have to? I'll be going with Yura to go find Kakashi. Is that cool with you? Naruto asked while the Uchiha and Yuna nodded their heads. Yura agreed with Naruto's idea as well while Sasuke turned around. If you say so. Let's go, Yuna, Sasuke said, and the two quickly left Naruto and Yura in the woods alone. Naruto and Yura stayed silent for a few moments before Naruto wrapped his arm around Yura's shoulder. She turned to him and decided to voice her concerns. Ni-sama, what are we going to do? We're facing off against a Bijou. Shouldn't we bring Kushina-sama? Yura asked, and Naruto knew what she meant. Naruto was equal to his mother in Fuinjutsu, but she had a lot more experience than he did. Naruto folded his arms and leaned against a tree while Yura watched him adopt a thinking pose. Well, Kyubi, what do you think of Sanbai? Naruto asked, making Kyubi stir. He heard the blonde's question and lazily rubbed his head with one of his tails. Sanbai is rather reclusive. Really, if you leave him alone then he'll leave you alone, but I have a feeling that neither those S-rank bastards nor the snake's right hand man are going to leave it that way. In which case I'd say that he's more than likely to try and kill us all. Yep, that's him, but do what you have to, Kyubi said while Naruto began to question his Bijou's relationship with the others or him, but he didn't keep that thought. We'll just have to make it up as we go along, Yura-chan. Come on, Kakashi-sensei is waiting for us, Naruto said as he hopped towards a tree branch. Yura merely followed him and the two continued to race through the forest before Naruto took a look at his hands. He closed his eyes and decided to test it out. He quickly covered his hands in the honshu before closing his eyes. Separate it, channel it to the stomach and reunite it before pushing it directly past your limbs. Concentrate, Naruto said as he tried to move his chakra in the way that he wanted as he no longer paid attention to the way in front of him. Yura watched him as he went through whatever he was doing before he noticed Naruto's mouth move, which got her to talk. Ni-sama, what are you, Kokunyugami no Jutsu? Naruto shouted as he closed his eyes. He quickly extended his hands and a layer of white ripples expelled from his body as they traveled around the area. Naruto then opened his eyes and gasped. He looked up at the sky. The clouds stopped moving, the birds stopped in mid-flight and stopped chirping. The trees weren't swaying from the wind. Naruto turned his head to see Yura. She was just staring at him, her lips were in mid-speak like she wanted to say something, but wouldn't. Whoa, what happened? Naruto wondered before he jumped to the ground. Nothing was moving in front of him. Everything stopped. Brat, you have just gotten my respect. Did you just stop time? Kyubi asked while Naruto looked around. He didn't know if he did or not. Naruto quickly took out his sword and channeled his honshu into it. The blonde then swung his blade at a tree before placing it back in its sheath. I don't know. Nothing's happening. Unless, I got it right. I knew my Kage Bunshins were on to something. All that training they did along with Ka-chan made it work. It worked. Kyubi, it's a distorted space that I created. It looks like the more chakra I pump into the technique the longer it works this way, and it seems that it won't do me much good now since it's ending, Naruto said, and just like that, he noticed a wave of honshu pass by him before everything resumed. Doing? Huh? Ni-sama, where did you go? Yura asked, looking around before she noticed Naruto on the ground looking around in awe. How did he get down there? Did he move so fast that not even Yura could follow him? She knew that her brother was fast, but that was just ridiculous. Yura jumped down to the ground and stood next to Naruto. Ni-sama, what are you doing on the ground? Yura asked, and Naruto was about to respond before they heard something creak. It started out small before it got bigger. Naruto looked down to see the tree in front of him beginning to fall forward. He noticed the large slash beginning to form on it before he smiled. It was happening. The slash he did while in his technique was working just now. The tree fell to the ground in a thunderous crash while Yura coughed from the coming dust. What was that? She asked while Naruto continued to stare in awe. He looked at his hands and smiled. It was right there, but it wasn't done. No, it wasn't perfect just yet, but man, he couldn't wait till he figured it out. Come on, Yura. We have more stuff to do. Let's get going, Naruto said, and while Yura would have wanted an explanation as to what happened, she decided not to say anything and just nodded her head as they rushed off. Yura looked back at the fallen tree and raised an eyebrow before she decided to leave it alone. With Kabuto walked through the hall of another base and cursed underneath his breath. Orochimaru was dead at the hands of Uchiha Sasuke and him. He was cowering from Naruto Uzumaki. He didn't know why he did it, but it was terrifying. That chakra, that cold stare, and the way his very presence spelled death for him. Kabuto snorted as he held up a notepad. With Orochimaru's death, he would have to take over the entire organization. Hey, that actually wasn't so bad. Kabuto continued to walk through the base before he looked down to see thousands of dead inmates in the ring below. He narrowed his eyes before seeing a light blue-haired woman. She looked at everyone with a mild glare before looking up to see Kabuto watching her. Oya, Guren-san, what has happened here? Kabuto asked while Guren walked up the stairs. She smiled at seeing such a thing while she spoke. We had a little battle royale for Orochimaru-sama, and it seems that quite a bit of people couldn't make the cut. So Kabuto, where is Orochimaru-sama? Guren asked while Kabuto smiled, however behind that smile was a face of pure irritation and annoyance at one particular Konoha shinobi. If people started to learn of Orochimaru's death, then it would bring about repercussions for Kabuto that he just didn't need right now. Orochimaru is out at the moment. He wishes not to be disturbed right now. Now then, Guren-san, I have a mission for you, Kabuto said, holding up a notepad. He grinned like mad, which made Guren arch an eyebrow at him and his expression, but she didn't say anything about it. I'm alright, what am I supposed to do? Guren asked while Kabuto motioned for Guren to follow him. The two left the arena behind and walked through the corridors of the base. You will go with Gozu, Kajiri, Kiho, Nurari and Rinji. There is a little marsh-filled area. It is said to be making a few appearances in the water. Until now no one has been able to see it, but Orochimaru-sama doesn't want to leave something to chance, so you six will be going. Along with one more person. I think you'll like him. Can you get the mission done? Kabuto asked, knowing that he didn't need an answer. Guren merely smiled and placed a hand on her hip. For Orochimaru-sama, I'll give anything, Guren said while Kabuto knocked on a door. It was soon opened to reveal a young boy with pale green hair. His magenta-colored eyes focused on Guren's form while she looked down at the young boy. Yukimaru-kun, I want you to go with Guren-san and help Orochimaru-sama. Will you do that? Kabuto asked. He had taken Yukimaru to the resting place of the Sanbai at one time. Yukimaru knew his duties and Kabuto was sure of that. Yes, I can, Yukimaru said, although it was rather in a submissive tone than anything else. Kabuto nodded with a smile and walked off while Guren took the time to look at Yukimaru a little more. She saw that he seemed to be rather short for his age, but other than that he seemed fine. It was only when she saw the smile on his face that Guren snorted and walked off while Yukimaru closed his door. What's he smiling at me for? Guren wondered to herself before shaking off the thought to go and get ready for her mission along with her team. That was until Kabuto stopped her with a hand on her shoulder. Should I be reminded of something else? Guren asked, wanting to get ready while Kabuto raised his ki, enough to make Guren shudder. Kabuto was about to give Guren his most needed to be heard advice. Guren, whatever you do on this mission, on the off chance that you meet with Naruto Uzumaki, then you and the others are to stop what you are doing immediately or you will regret it, Kabuto said while Guren raised an eyebrow. Orochimaru talked about the Kyubi Jinchuriki before, but he didn't sound like something Guren couldn't handle. However, she took Kabuto's advice with a nod and walked off while Kabuto went in the other direction. He wouldn't lose Guren too. She was still a crucial asset to Orochimaru's plans and he would make sure she lived even if he had to do something drastic. In Kirigakure, really? You want to come to Uzushiogakure and see my son? Kushina asked while Mei nodded her head quickly. If she had known that she was going to have another close family member, then who was she to not go and meet him? Oh boy, would she love it, to see just how old if not handsome he was by this time. Kushina could see her cousin's smirk and narrowed her eyes. I'm not giving my Sochi to your greedy little hands, Kushina said while Mei deflated. She chuckled and shrugged her shoulders. Zabuza sighed with his arms folded. Ao seemed to be in the same boat as Zabuza as the two continued to watch the females talk it out. Ah, come on Kushina. Let me see him. I promise on my word as the Mizukage that I won't try anything, Mei said, and Kushina reluctantly nodded her head while Mei lightened up. Ao, make preparations for me to go to Uzushiogakure immediately. I can't wait to see him, Mei said while Ao gulped. But Mei-sama, your work isn't done yet. Please reconsider, Ao begged, but one thing about being related to the Uzumaki was that you were undeniably stubborn, which Kushina could attest to. Ao, get it done or I'll melt you, Mei said with a smile while Ao shivered. Zabuza did the same, as he had remembered that happened to him as well when they were younger. Kushina laughed and so did Mei while Ao ran out the room to go and get the preparations completed for the Mizukage. However, that would have to be put on hold for a little while as a poof came near Kushina. The redhead Uzumaki knelt down to the ground to see Pakken as he handed her a scroll. He then immediately poofed with Kushina opening said scroll. She looked up and down the scroll while reading the contents before she glared. Heineken had another mission. No doubt Naruto had already gotten the message and they would be regrouping after only a few days apart. Since Pakken sent it, then that meant that Yugao and Mikoto received the news as well. They would be busy. On second thought, Mei, why don't you go to Uzushiogakure and wait? It seems that we have a mission and this one is rather high at that. So can you wait? Kushina asked, and Mei wondered what was in the contents of her cousin's scroll, but didn't pry. She knew better than to try that, especially with Kushina. I'm sure I can wait. I was looking forward to taking a small break, Mei said, and Kushina nodded while turning to Zabuza. Zabuza, guide Mei towards Uzushiogakure for me. I'll be there as soon as I am able, Kushina said before she vanished in a shunshin, leaving Mei and Zabuza in the room, alone. Both glanced at each other and a long silence came about. Sup, Zabuza said while Mei shrugged her shoulders nonchalantly with a small smile on her face. Nothing much, she responded while the silence reigned in the office once again. With Naruto and Yura, the two Uzumaki currently stopped at the edge of Konohagakure near the Valley of End. Naruto looked around for a bit, but seeing the map that Pakken had sent him, then he and his team were to rendezvous a little further off. He turned back to see Yura behind him, not really tired from the morning run that they had been doing. She smiled at her Uzumaki family member while Naruto smiled also. How far away are we, Ni-sama? Yura asked while Naruto looked at a map. He held it to his eyes while sighing. Still a long way to go, Yura-chan. Do you want to take a break? Naruto asked, but Yura shook her head stating that she was fine with continuing on their path. Naruto then looked off to the right to see the place where he and Sasuke had fought. The two destroyed legs of Madara Uchiha and Hashirama Senju were still in pieces because of them. Naruto then looked off to a faraway forest and sighed. He had to get to Taiyuya, but some of these missions were becoming a pain. He knew he could get to her, but he didn't have much information to go on about her, so it would have been best for him to meet with her in person. Well, it looks like we all arrived here, Naruto and Yura turned around to see Kakashi, Yugao and Mikoto heading their way along with Fuka. Naruto wondered what she was doing with them before he noticed them arrive. Kakashi-sensei, Yugao-chan, Mikoto-chan. You guys made it, Naruto said as the other three Heineken members came together. They gave him a thumbs up while Fuka gave Yura a quick hello which Yura returned in the same manner. I take it you got the message? Kakashi asked and Naruto nodded his head while looking around. Where is Ka-chan? He asked and Mikoto answered him. She went to Kiri with Sabuza. Something about paying someone back, but Kakashi sent her the same message so she should be meeting up with us soon, Mikoto answered and Naruto nodded feeling content with that answer. He quickly took out the same map he had been reading and handed it to Kakashi. So what are we going to do? Yugao asked while Kakashi shook his head. All three then realized something and looked on. Hey Naruto, where is Sasuke? Mikoto asked slightly concerned for her son while Naruto sighed. He rubbed the back of his head and gave a smile and that smile seemed to calm Mikoto down as her worst fear hadn't been realized. Sasuke is with Yuna. We accomplished it. Sasuke took out Orochimaru. He's really gone, Naruto said and the shock of those words were evident as Kakashi, Yugao and Mikoto stood there in silence. Even Fuka was silent and it was a long time before the realization hit their ears. Naruto, I admit that Sasuke is strong, but how could he beat Orochimaru by himself? Kakashi asked. Even he had faced Orochimaru and he knew that he would die. Orochimaru was just that strong while Naruto smiled. I wouldn't sell Sasuke short. He's an ass, but he's very strong. Plus we sort of got him when he was a little weak and in a bad mood. Plus Sasuke told me that he used the Uchiha-style Kenjutsu. It seemed that it was rather effective against someone like Orochimaru and now Sasuke and Yuna have left to go and do something else. More than likely they won't be joining us, Naruto said while everyone glanced at each other. They all sighed and smiled while turning around. Well, it's a good thing we have Fuka here to replace him for a little while since Sasuke is gone. Well, shall we all get going? Kakashi asked and everyone nodded as they ran off into the distance with Naruto sending a little gift to Tsunade. A certain message via spirit summon. With Tsunade, the Godame Hokage was currently meeting with Team Kurenai, Lee, and Tenten from Team Guy. All of them were together while Tsunade intertwined her fingers together while telling the information to everyone present. Seriously? We're supposed to back up Heineken? Why are we going to back them up? Kiba asked while Shino placed his hands in his pockets. Hinata wanted to know as well and if Naruto was alright. No, you misread that. You are not backing up Heineken. I said you are investigating a site that it's supposed to be near where Heineken is. It has to do with some rich medical supplies that have been known to grow there, but our sources also tell me that one of Orochimaru's bases is there, which is why I'm sending you in such large numbers. However, I don't want you to get in their way, Tsunade said while Kiba snorted. Get in their way? If anything, we should worry about that loser getting in our way, Kiba said with a smile across his face while Shino straightened his glasses. Hinata didn't say anything while Tenten snorted. Him get in our way? Kiba, I think Naruto's left you in the dust. He's now a part of a team that has the same abilities and privileges as the Umbu do. I think he'll be fine on his own, Tenten said, making the others nod while Kiba blushed in embarrassment of his actions, which Tsunade nodded. Expertly said Tenten. Now then, you are to all leave in 2 days from now and dash, hey Tsu-chan, Dan said, coming through the wall enough to startle everyone. Kiba and Akamaru jumped back and nearly fell to the floor while Hinata widened her eyes. Shino's eyebrow twitched while Tenten shouted at the top of her lungs. Is this a bad time? Dan asked, rubbing his head with a smile on his face. Tsunade sighed and rubbed her temples while seeing her former boyfriend coming through the wall. TT Tsunade-sama, you have AAA-. Tenten pointed to Dan as his feet touched the ground. He merely smiled while Tsunade shook her head. Oh yeah, like she could explain this to anyone now. Damn brat, always making her life complicated. Yes, I know what he is, Tenten. Now would all of you calm down? Tsunade asked, nearing the yelling part while everyone calmed down. Kiba and Akamaru looked at Dan and the former held out his hand to touch his shinobi vest. Yes, I'm real, Dan said while Kiba jumped back. Shino narrowed his eyes before he placed one of his bugs on Dan's shoulder. Naturally, Dan could feel some of his honshu taken from his body before he saw Shino's bug fall to the floor dead. Shino looked at it as well while Dan mentally smirked. Yep, humans and anything else mortal weren't meant to handle honshu, and its power was really deadly for anyone who hadn't been dead before. I'd appreciate it if you didn't do that again, Dan said in the nicest tone possible, but something in that tone caused Shino to shiver. Dan liked his personal space and Tsunade knew that. Shino stepped back with an apology while Hinata, out of pure interest, activated her Byakugan and gazed at Dan's chakra network or lack thereof. He had a network, but it wasn't comprised of chakra. Inside of it was a very white source of power. It looked even more powerful than chakra itself. But how is that possible? Hinata thought to herself while Tsunade stood up trying to regain any control she could over the situation at the moment. So Dan, why are you here? Tsunade asked and Dan cleared his throat with a simple cough while reaching into his pouch. He pulled out an orange scroll and handed it toward Tsunade. The Godame Hokage took it into her hands and opened it. Dear Bachan, Heineken met up with each other and we're all going to complete our mission. Oh, and sorry if Dan did something stupid while delivering this. He said he thought it would be a good idea to surprise you and I kind of agreed with him on that. What you gonna do? Oh yeah, also, Sasuke killed Orochimaru. I sealed his soul thanks to Shin and well, how much money is that to Heineken? Tsunade dropped the scroll she was reading and stared wide-eyed at the words. Orochimaru was dead? That sounded like a damn dream if she had ever had one before. Tsunade closed her eyes and everyone turned around. Tsunade-sama, what is it? Tenten asked while Tsunade dropped her arms to her desk. The Umbu in the room raised their eyes at her while Tsunade smiled. Sasuke and Naruto killed Orochimaru, Tsunade said while Kiba widened his eyes. Shino's glasses almost dropped off his face while Hinata covered her mouth with her hands. Tenten and Lee were silent while Dan smiled. The Umbu all stood jaw-dropped at those words. So many Umbu died because of Orochimaru and some kids take down the S-rank missing Nin? Is that a joke? Naruto and Sasuke did it? Kiba asked while Tsunade nodded her head, a large smile began to appear on her face. Those are Shiken-sama's words. Be seeing you Tsuchan, Dan said before fading out. Shiken-sama? What kind of name is that? It sounds most unyouthful, Lee said while Kiba placed a finger to his chin. It means death soul, right? He asked and Tsunade tensed. She slammed the desk of her office, making the Chunin in the room turn to her with shock on their faces. That's enough chatter. Now get going on your mission this instant. Tsunade shouted, trying to distract everyone from their current thoughts at the moment. Everyone raced out of the room while Tsunade sighed. She looked at the bingo book and with a sure smile across her face she crossed out Orochimaru's name. All the Umbu watched her go through that while Tsunade got up from her seat. Let's see, Heineken needs this much for Orochimaru and, oh shit. They're even richer than this village might be, Tsunade said, and with a sigh she got up to go and have the money transferred to their accounts. No doubt the world would learn of this fast enough. With Guren and the others, 2 days later Guren and her team made it towards the open lake where it was rumored that the Sanbai was supposed to be hiding. They looked around and saw no enemy in sight. Is this the spot? Guren asked while Yukimura nodded his head. He looked up to see his bodyguards looking at him. They were all so weird to him. He had asked their names and they said that they were Gozu, Kijiri, Kiho, Rinji and Nurari. Gozu was a large man and possibly the largest man in Yukimaru's eyes. He wore the top of an obi shirt and pants. His face was a little weird-shaped, but Yukimaru didn't ask about it. Kijiri had medium-length dull purple hair and gray eyes. He wore a black cloak with a black undershirt under with lavender pants and sandals. His most recognizable feature, in Yukimaru's opinion, was the gas mask he wore which covered the lower half of his face. Kiho had pale, pasty-looking skin and white hair with dark, blue-framed glasses with orange lenses. His outfit consisted a dark purple cloak with blue pants and wore geta that were tan with black strips and only sandal hold. Nurari was by far the weirdest to Yukimaru. Simple because he couldn't tell if he was a he or a she. He really didn't want to ask, but felt the curiosity sort of taking him though he just resisted. He wore a full-body slime suit, leaving only his face revealed. He wore dark green lipstick, his eyes were wide open all the time and had some pink hair sticking out of his slime suit. Rinji had dark brown hair with black eyes. His outfit consisted of a purple loose-fitting vest that showed his chest. The rest of his midsection was covered with bandages. He wore a light blue poncho-like item around his neck and also wore black wrist warmers and tan pants with dark brown sandals. In Yukimaru's opinion, he was by far the most normal, along with Guren, out of the group. However, the only one he seemed to be interested in was Guren. She wore red lipstick, had fair skin, dark eyes and light blue hair which she kept in a spiky ponytail with long strands of hair framing her face. Her outfit consisted of a green dress with a long left sleeve and a short right one, a red turtleneck which had a white, fluffy collar and brown gloves. Under the dress, she wore a one-piece red suit. For shoes, she wore calf-length brown sandal boots. "All right here," Yukimaru said as they all started at the open lake. Guren nodded her head while she stepped into a boat along with Yukimaru and Gozu. The other three were left to guard the lake in case of intruders. Guren knew well to guard against such people. Gozu rowed the boat quietly through the lake as a small fog set in. "But why do we have to send this boy out here? He'll get himself killed," Guren thought to herself before shaking her head left and right. She didn't care what happened. She had a job to do for Orochimaru and she would get it done. She wouldn't go back. Not to that life of helplessness and loneliness. No way, now that she was strong she would never fall like that again. The three came into the middle of the lake and Guren pushed Yukimaru forward slightly while folding her arms. "All right kid, get it done," Guren said evenly while Gozu looked at her then at Yukimaru. He merely nodded his head and stood straight. Guren and Gozu watched him close his eyes while he sighed. "Hey-wa-ha." Guren and Gozu were taken aback by the sudden yelling that Yukimaru emitted from his throat. A surge of chakra escaped from his body which seemed to rock the boat. "What the hell?" Guren said completely shocked at this turn of events. With Heineken Naruto, Kakashi, Yugao, Kushina and Mikoto were walking through the thick mist-infested lake along with Fuka and Yura. They were all together and hoped to cross the trees. Kushina took the lead along with her Naruto before they landed. Kushina moved her head to see if any enemies were around, but she didn't see anything before turning around. "All right you guys. Capturing a bijou is serious business here. The only record of a single person sealing a bijou is Mitoba-chan when Kyubi attacked," Kushina said, and Naruto could hear Kyubi grumble about how it wasn't his fault and all things like that. It made Naruto silently snicker, but he was paying attention. "So what are we going to do? Are you or Naruto going to seal it?" Yugao asked while Kushina and Naruto sighed. "Alone we don't have that capability. Minato was the only one who ever did such a thing, but that was only because of Dash." Kushina trailed off before she widened her eyes and turned to Naruto. The blonde blinked while the others turned to him as well. Kakashi and Yugao nodded their heads fast, as did Mikoto. Did I miss something?" Naruto asked while Kakashi patted the blonde's shoulder. Naruto, Minato-sensei was able to do this because he had the Shinigami seal half of Kyuubi's chakra. "Do you think you could do the same?" Kakashi asked, and Naruto's eyebrow twitched. He looked at his seal and scratched the side of his cheek. "Honestly, I don't know. I've never tried, but I think Shin could try if I asked him to," Naruto said while everyone wasn't sure what to think, but they took it as a better sign than anything else. "Well, we'll figure out what to do later. Yura, this is your first mission as an Uzumaki. Stay near Fuka and watch each other's back. Kakashi and Mikoto will be good as a pair. I'll be with Yugao. Sochi will have to go by himself," Kushina said while Naruto snorted. He shrugged his shoulders and sighed before everyone heard a scream. It came from the place they were going. Naruto glared out. "Kyuubi, do you feel that?" Naruto asked, and the Bijou grumbled as he tried to cover his ears with from the screaming and the chakra. "You're damn right I feel it, brat. That awful screaming. I think Sanbai hears it too, and he's definitely pissed off right now," Kyuubi said while Naruto growled. Everyone quickly headed for the sound of the screaming in their respective groups. At the lake, Guren covered her ears, and so did Gozu as they saw Yukimaru's body expel a large quantity of chakra. He screamed and screamed more while they saw something in the water. It was beginning to rise as they watched in awe. A large silhouette of the Sanbai came into view for them all while Guren raised an eyebrow. It roared at them, rocking the boat, but it was brief and started to fade. Guren turned towards Yukimaru and watched him straining his body to keep the chakra going. She narrowed her eyes before Yukimaru stopped and fell to the boat exhausted. He huffed and they watched it disappear from their view. "What happened?" Guren asked while Yukimaru gasped for breath. He seemed to be in some real pain, which was something that Guren noticed. She quickly patted Yukimaru's back and sighed. "You alright?" Guren asked, and Yukimaru nodded his head, though it was only slightly. "Gozu, row us back. We're going to regroup and set up camp." "This isn't going to work," Guren said while Gozu nodded. He began to row them back, and it didn't take them long to reach the edge as Guren took Yukimaru's hand and lead him out and toward her team. "What was that?" Kiho asked, massaging his ears. Guren ignored her partner and turned to Rinji while she pointed towards Yukimaru. "We went with this plan, Rinji." "What the hell was that?" Guren asked, clearly angry that the Sanbai had disappeared and for why she didn't know. Rinji snorted and shrugged his shoulders. "It seems that Yukimaru isn't able to maintain the high chakra outtake. Luckily we have these," Rinji said, holding up some pills in a bag. Guren narrowed her eyes and took one into her hands. "What the hell is this supposed to be?" Guren asked while Rinji spoke. "Something from Kabuto. It's supposed to help Yukimaru right there, or so I'd guess," Rinji said while Guren turned around. She nodded and knelt down while handing the pill to Yukimaru. "Think you can take it?" she asked with an uncertain amount of kindness in her voice. Yukimaru looked at the pill, then at Guren. She still stared at him, emotionless as she could, but couldn't resist a small smile coming on her face. That smile then faded as she turned her head fast to the right. She felt a few chakra signatures converging on their locations. She sucked her teeth while the others got ready. "Aniki, do you see them?" Kajiri asked Rinji, and the teammate nodded his head while he turned to Guren. "I suggest that we get out of here. There is a small shack in the forest where we can regroup." "I don't think we're ready to face them just yet," Rinji said while Guren narrowed her eyes. "Are you saying that we should just run?" she asked, and Rinji shook his head fast with a small smile on his face. "No, nothing like that, but if you don't want us to head back to the shack, then I think we should at least see who they are and act accordingly." "I'd rather not head into battle blindly, thank you," Rinji said while Kiho smirked. He got the little gun on his arm ready for a fight. He wasn't going to go boom anytime soon. Everyone hide, Guren said, and everyone did so while she grabbed Yukimaru and covered his mouth. Everyone hid in the bushes, trees, etc. as Naruto came jumping down. He grinned and looked around, but didn't see anything. Hey, what village is that guy from? I don't see his headband. Aniki, Kajiri said while Rinji narrowed his eyes. Naruto walked up to the lake and knelt down. He touched the sand and smiled. Was he the one you sensed? Rinji asked while Guren nodded. He was one of them, but where were the others that were with him? Guren wasn't insane. She knew that. She felt more chakra signatures than just his, but from his attire he seemed to be really strong, as if the sword on his back was any indication, as well as the long sequence of intricate seals on his arms. Naruto grinned as he could feel all their stares on him. The others were off investigating something else, and Naruto took the time to go to the lake. Kyuubi had calmed down and said that the screaming had stopped, which was the first thing that Naruto had noticed, but he could still feel their chakra signatures. The female was obviously doing the right job. Stayed hidden, which was something that Naruto was going to give to her. Let's see. That scream came from here and the Sanbai somewhere in this lake. Looks like I should report back, Naruto said to himself while Guren cursed underneath her breath. He's after the Sanbai as well, but that blonde hair. Kabuto warned me about it, Guren said to herself. Naruto stood to his feet and looked around. He smirked and spoke. It's obvious that you're there, so why don't you come out before I force you out, Naruto said while Guren growled. He spotted them and he was making it seem like a joke. What do we do, Guren? Kiho asked while Kajiri smirked. It's just one brat. We can take him, no problem, he said, but Rinji shivered at the sight of the blonde. Naruto chuckled and shook his head. No? Well, all right then. I'll force you out. Kai! Naruto shouted and the forest exploded from one of Naruto's clones while Guren and everyone jumped out. They all appeared on the beach with Naruto while the blonde smiled. Was that so hard? Naruto asked while Guren and everyone else surrounded Yukimaru. Who are you? Guren asked and Naruto smiled. Naruto Uzumaki, at your service, the blonde said while Guren widened her eyes. This was the guy that Kabuto told her to stay away from? He looked just like a teenager. Why should she be scared of this guy? Well, Naruto-san, I'm afraid you're going to have to leave right and dash, we're falling back. Everyone retreat, Guren said, and before anyone could ask why, she shot off with Yukimaru in her hand and the others left as well. Naruto raised an eyebrow while Kyuubi spoke. Yes, run. Run. Run away from the Shinigami summoner. You bunch of chickens. Kyuubi hollered while Naruto shook his head left and right. He let a chuckle escape his lips before their signatures were away from his sensory. The blonde took his hand off his sword that he was unconsciously holding rather tightly while he sighed. You're ridiculous, Naruto said, making Kyuubi laugh in the depths of the blonde's mind. That I am. That I am, Kyuubi said while Kushina and the others dropped down. Naruto smirked as he came up to them. Everyone else had been hiding while Naruto acted as some of the bait. It worked magnificently for them too. It seems that they weren't the only ones who knew about the Sanbai's location. So what's the plan now? We saw about 5 or 6 of them. I can't say we outnumber them simply because it might take both Naruto and Kushina Taishu to carry out the operation at the moment, Yugao stated while everyone else folded their arms and adopted thinking poses. They all didn't know what to think of the situation at the moment before Yura made a suggestion. What about Nisama's summons? Yuna-san is with Sasuke-san, so he should have 4 other people, right? Yura asked and everyone turned to Naruto, who furrowed his brow. He closed his eyes while internally thought it over. He tried to imagine all the possibilities of using Pakura, Dan, Kimimaro and Fujikaze. He had talked with them all a few times, but then again he felt that they might be able to do some more good. Hold that thought, Yura-chan, Naruto said as he took out his sword. Everyone watched him coat it in Honshu while he swung his sword around. Everyone jumped back away from him while Naruto shouted. Shurkan no Mai, Naruto shouted, and two people came from his sword and landed on the ground. Dan was still gone after delivering Naruto's message to Tsunade. So the two people who came back were Pakura and Kimimaro. As soon as both landed on the ground they bowed. "Hi Shikin-sama," they said while Naruto smiled. He patted both Pakura and Kimimaro on the shoulder, causing the two to look up at him to see the blonde's warming smile. It sort of relaxed them since both were more formal than most people. "Pakura, Kimimaro, I have a mission for the both of you. In this area are people trying to take the Sanbai. I want you to find them and keep tabs on them for me. Don't let yourself get caught," Naruto said while Pakura and Kimimaro glanced at each other. The tall woman and Kagaya clan member 10 stood to their feet and nodded. "As you wish, Shikin-sama," they said before they both dashed off while the others came together. Yura and Fuka stared at the two leaving Shinobi before turning back to seeing Naruto place his sword away. "I'm so never going to get used to that," Yura said, and Fuka could only nod in agreement with her Uzumaki family member. It didn't take long before the two females saw everyone else heading towards the water and soon followed after them. Naruto quickly sprinted up to his mother and placed a hand on her shoulder, stopping the redhead for a bit. Kushina turned to her son to see Naruto's smile. She raised an eyebrow before he pointed to the trees, signifying that he wanted to talk with her in private. Kushina stared at her son in confusion, but nonetheless trusted him and agreed to go with him. "Naruto-kun and I need to talk. All of you continue to investigate the waters. If you see anything then notify us," Kushina said, and everyone nodded, agreeing with her orders. Kakashi took point while Mikoto and Yugao filed in behind him. Fuka and Yura decided to walk around the waters for a bit and look around while Kushina and Naruto disappeared into the woods. Naruto tried to make sure that they were out of earshot range. He looked back and knew that they weren't followed while Kushina tapped her foot, impatiently waiting for her son and lover to start with the explanation. "Alright Sochi, what's with all of the secrecy and you? Is something wrong?" Kushina asked, but she was shocked when Naruto grabbed her waist and twirled her into the air. Kushina yelped in Naruto's arms while her son continued to swirl her around. "Ka-chan, I did it. I really did it," Naruto said before he set Kushina down. The female Uzumaki gasped from the sudden excitement before she decided to ask. "What did you do?" she asked, and Naruto snickered while he scratched his cheek. "I made the jutsu that we were working on. See these seals on my wrists? These help to regulate my Honshu flow through my body, and thanks to that I was able to make it work like I wanted. It mimics the ripple effect of distortion, Ka-chan," Naruto said while Kushina seemed even more confused than before. "Touch my shoulder," Naruto said, and Kushina nodded. She shrugged her shoulders and gently placed her hands on her son's shoulders. Naruto closed his eyes and placed his palms together. Kushina watched in awe as his chakra flared and the true essence of Honshu came onto his hands. "Kokunyugami no Jutsu," Naruto shouted as he extended his hands. Kushina watched in awe as a large pool of white ripples came from his hands. They started to spread over the entire area of Naruto's desire, and Kushina watched in sheer fascination as everything around them stopped. She could see that the mist had stopped moving. The waters were eerily calm. Not a sound was being heard. "Sochi, what is this databane?" Kushina asked, looking around the place like she had never seen it before in her life. Everything was still and silent. They were like the only ones moving in the entire world at the moment. "Ka-chan, this jutsu stops time for everyone, but us. However, I can't only keep it for as long as much of the Honshu that I put into it. That's one of its weaknesses. A second weakness that I want to overcome is the time duration. For right now, We can only stay in this space for about 5 minutes, Naruto said while Kushina walked through the bushes. They moved and rustled when she touched them, but then Kushina noticed that when she pushed branches apart they didn't go back together, but stayed the way she had them. One thing Kushina observed about this place is that if people stopped then she could be a true blur to them if she needed to when Naruto turned it off. It also seemed that the space part of this time/space ninjutsu was that it applied to only her and Naruto. If they wanted then they could move anything to where it should be, but then Kushina remembered Naruto's words about its weaknesses. 5 minutes wasn't really a long time, but it seemed like it could be. All the books those clones must have read and practiced for Naruto and herself get this to work. This was the product of using that many clones reading and practicing. How amazing was this technique? Sochi, this is incredible. You actually did it, Kushina said while Naruto came up behind her. He smiled with a nod before Kushina came walking out of the bushes. She was amazed to see Yugao, Kakashi, Mikoto, Yura and Fuka had all stopped. Yugao was kneeling down to look at the water while Mikoto looked out into the open lake. Kakashi had stopped in mid-step with one foot in front of the other with his hand on his chin. Much to Naruto and Kushina's surprise, Fuka was showing Yura Kakashi's orange book and seemed to have a smile on her face at Yura's embarrassed face. Kushina had the opportunity to look at it all while Naruto tapped her shoulder. She turned around to see Naruto cross his fingers. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Naruto shouted as he made a single clone. To Kushina it seemed that you could even perform jutsu in the place, but it seemed like it was straining Naruto to hold that jutsu and the one he just used. He nonetheless smiled and tossed the clone into the water. Kushina watched the clone hit the water, but it surprised her when there was no splash. She then turned to Naruto who held up a hand sign. Kai, Naruto shouted and the clone exploded, but still nothing moved. Kushina seemed confused by what Naruto had done before the blonde cancelled the jutsu. It happened so fast. Yura, Fuka and the rest of Heineken widened their eyes and backed away from Naruto and Kushina out of shock. Oh shit, where did you guys come from? Fuka asked while the others felt their hearts nearly jump out. No matter how good Naruto and Kushina were at stealth, to be able to sneak up on them like it was nothing was such a shock. Kushina widened her eyes while Naruto winked. He then pointed to the water and it took less than a second for Kushina to watch as the ground shook from an explosion. Everyone watched as a large orange ball came into view. It grew bigger and bigger before Naruto widened his eyes. Get down! Naruto shouted and everyone hit the sand in front of them while the orange ball completely exploded fast sending tons of water into the air. Kushina gasped at the sight. That explosion was the cause of her son's explosion clone. The delayed explosion in the distorted space showed for an unbelievable explosion that could come out of nowhere while increasing the force. Kushina could only marvel at her son and what he had just made. She didn't know what rank to give it, but if the Raisin Shuriken was an S-rank jutsu then this was right up there as well. No doubt she could do this too and she wondered about what would happen if she and Naruto used it at the same time. Oh, this was just too interesting. Soon the explosion settled down and everyone got to their feet with Yugao taking the hilt of her sword. Is it the enemy? She asked while Kakashi shook his head. He couldn't feel anyone's chakra signatures for a few miles. He had nothing and neither did anyone else. I don't think so. I think it might have been the Sanbai. Here's hoping it's the latter, Naruto lied and Kushina snickered, but she didn't say anything since she really didn't have anything to tell anyone at the moment. If that's right then we should try to, Nisama, what, wrong? Yura asked and everyone turned to see Naruto slightly panting. He wasn't used to using all of his Honshu that way and it felt a little tiring from using that technique twice in a day. Naruto would definitely have to train if had any chance of using it multiple times. Sorry, just a little tired, Naruto said while everyone relaxed. Seeing Naruto tired, they all decided to take a break and continue things at a later time. They had left to go and set up a camp near the lake, but no one forgot about their friends somewhere in the forest as well. With Guren the team leader sighed as she and her team rested in a house not far from the lake. She finally got control of her body and calmed down. She didn't know why, but Kabuto's words were getting to her sort of. She felt uncomfortable in Naruto's presence. She would have to be wary of him and anyone else that happened to get in her way. "Guren, why did we retreat?" Kiho asked and Guren folded her arms. She sighed while Yukimaru walked outside. She sat down and brushed a hand across her hair. "We pulled out because of the boy. We'll try again tomorrow." Also knowing that someone else is here changes the plans a little bit, she said, and Rinji could agree with her on that before everyone relaxed and calmed down. Guren got up from her seat and walked out of the house. "You think she's paranoid?" Kiho asked, which got him a punch to the arm from Gozu. He knew more about Guren than what she might have been willing to like. He looked out the window and Gozu squinted his eyes as he wondered if he saw something, but ignored it. Pakura and Kimimaro sat above a tree top in their spirit forms looking at Yukimaru pick some flowers. He seemed perfectly happy with what he was doing, which caused Kimimaro to turn to Pakura. "I remember that boy. He was one of Orochimaru's test subjects. He's not a bad kid. I wished to save him," Kimimaro said while Pakura glanced to her side. "You have some history?" she asked and Kimimaro nodded, but to her small surprise he didn't say anything after that, so Pakura left it alone. While in Naruto's sword, Pakura had tried to strike a small conversation with Kimimaro showing that she wouldn't condemn him for following someone like Orochimaru, but Kimimaro was indifferent to her as well as everyone else. "Hey, what are you doing out here?" Guren asked, bringing both Pakura and Kimimaro back to their objective. Yukimaru looked up to see Guren coming towards him while he smiled. He held up a camellia and gave it to Guren. Said woman looked at the flower for a little bit and narrowed her eyes. "Flowers are nice, aren't they?" he asked unexpectedly and caught Guren off guard with that question. She just stared at him evenly while she knelt down. "You do? You like them?" she asked and Yukimaru nodded his head with a small smile while Guren took the flower into her hands. Yukimaru watched as she crystallized it and gave it to him. He stared at her for a bit while Guren shrugged. Pakura and Kimimaro widened their eyes at such a thing. A Kekai Genkai. Some type of crystal bloodline that seemed to be like theirs. "Here, now you can stare at it all you want," Guren said before walking off. Yukimaru smiled and looked at the crystallized camellia flower before turning around. "Thank you, Guren-san," he said, and Guren just paused in mid-step. She turned around and saw Yukimaru's gentle smile and unconsciously smiled before walking back. Pakura and Kimimaro noticed the action and glanced to each other. "Kimimaro, I'll go and inform Shiken-sama." "You stay here and stay updated," Pakura said, and Kimimaro nodded as he watched Pakura float off. Meanwhile Kimimaro looked down to see Yukimaru smiling. "Guren-san is nice. She's not a bad person," he said suddenly, and Kimimaro raised an eyebrow. Weird kid was the only thing that Kimimaro could be thinking right now. Somewhere else in Hai no Kuni Asuma. Shikamaru shouted in tears as he ran for his sensei. He was running as fast as he could, but his legs felt so heavy. Izumo and Kotetsu widened their eyes while Asuma dropped to his knees. He coughed up blood while the medium-sized red circle around his form disappeared. He, ha 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 ha. Fall into despair for Jashin-sama. Haiden cried out while Kakuzu shook his head at his partner. They had made this little detour because of Asuma's bounty and were just looking to claim his head. What a coincidence that they were able to meet up with said person. "Haiden, you idiot. He was worth more alive," Kakuzu said before Izumo and Kotetsu stood in their way from taking Asuma. Shikamaru grabbed him and shook him. "Asuma, don't die. Not here. You have to go back. We both do." You have a child waiting for you. Shikamaru said before Asuma raised his hand. He lightly smiled and touched Shikamaru's face. Don't cry, Shikamaru. Just promise me one thing. Please, protect the will of fire, Asuma said with his last words and dropped down, lifeless. Shikamaru clutched Asuma's body close to his own and cried out while Izumo and Kotetsu grabbed both him and Asuma as they disappeared from Kakuzu and Haiden's view. The latter chuckled and licked his triscythe. Jashin-sama is well pleased with that heathen's blood. He ha ha ha. Haiden cackled while Kakuzu shook his head again. He had such a weird teammate. Shin appeared over Asuma's lifeless body and narrowed his eyes. Things have begun to move. Sorry Shirkan, but it's almost time for the world to know, Shin said to himself before fading out of view. Elsewhere, oblivious to what just happened with Team 10's Jonin-sensei, the members of Heineken were all gathered around the lake looking it over, and suddenly Kushina just from the beach and landed into the water. She looked around the misty marsh and sighed. I don't see anything here. Or that guy is really hidden, she said, and everyone agreed. Naruto could still hear Kyubi's ramblings that Sanbai was definitely in the lake, as for where then he didn't know, but he could feel his fellow Biju's power like a damn plague that invaded the fox's senses. Well, we know that Orochimaru's shinobi are here for some reason. If they are here, then there is something of interest around here. And we all heard that screaming not long ago. I do believe that something is here, Yugao interjected, and her confidence was raised when Naruto agreed with her. The blonde proceeded to walk across the water as well despite his tiredness and looked out at the seemingly calm waters. Yeah, Sanbai is here. Kyubi said that he is. As for how to draw him out into the open, then I'm lost here. I don't know what we should do, Naruto spoke, providing his input. Kushina narrowed her eyes and folded her slender arms. If that's the case, then we'd have to wait until those others are done with whatever they are supposed to be doing. It's risky, but if we can get the Sanbai to appear, then we can contain it, Kakashi assessed while Fuka and Yura seemed at a loss for words. Yes, but one wrong move and it could end up with Orochimaru. The last thing that we need is for him to be experimenting with a Biju, Yugao retorted, making some of the others chuckle even though they knew that she was being serious. Alright, we'll just have to leave it at that. Sochi, Yura, and I will travel into the lake and find anything. Fuka, you are to go with Kakashi, Yugao, and Mikoto. Help them set up a perimeter around this lake with some seals that Sochi designed. If we're lucky, then they will wait till night time to come back. By that time we should have something concrete, Kushina ordered, and everyone agreed as Yura and Naruto watched their teammates vanish in leaves, with Fuka giving a small wink to Naruto, making the blonde showcase a small pink blush to his face. Yura rolled her eyes while Kushina snorted. Something about flighty women in their family before they walked off into the water with the mist covering them. Naruto was about to follow before he turned around to see Pakura land behind him. Pakura-san, what did you find out? Naruto asked, and Pakura knelt down on one knee as she gave the information to her summoner. Hi Shiken-sama. Kimimaro and I know where the enemy is hiding. They are in a small shack not far from here. It also seems that there is a small boy with them. Kimimaro and I believe that he is crucial to their plot to control the Sanbai. Kimimaro has agreed to stay behind until I return. We think that they will come back somewhere near nightfall, Pakura said, and Naruto brought a finger to his chin. That tied in well with the rest of Heineken's plans. Naruto could now take some precautions when it came to this, but the boy that Pakura referred to sort of got Naruto's interest. What could a little boy be doing with Orochimaru? Ugh, I don't even want to ponder that. I need some mind soap or something. Yuck, Naruto shuddered at the thought. Quickly for his, and Kyubi's sanity, they got off that topic fast and just in time, as Pakura seemed to have something else to say to him. Also, there is this blue-haired woman with him. You've seen her, right? Pakura asked, and Naruto nodded. He had seen her before at that one point. He hadn't given a chance to them as his team had come for him. Naruto grumbled and scratched the back of his head. What about her? Naruto asked and Pakura cleared her throat with a cough. She's like me Shikin-sama. She has a Kekai Genkai. Kimimaro and I have seen it. She's able to encase anything she touches into crystal. Sort of like me with my Shikuten, Pakura answered and Naruto sighed. A Kekai Genkai for crystals. That seemed weird enough that it already was. Shoten? Naruto thought to himself before he smiled and patted Pakura's shoulder, making her look up at him. Alright then, thank you Pakura. You can go back. Tell Kimimaro that I said thanks as well and keep up the good work, Naruto said with a thumbs up, and Pakura allowed for a small, happy smile to come across her face. Understood Shikin-sama. Oh, also Kimimaro says that he remembers the boy that we were watching. He says that if you don't want to then he won't force his wishes upon you, but he hopes that you will. Save that boy, Yukimaru, Pakura said, and Naruto paused in mid-step. Pakura watched him go through several emotions. Well, sort of. His back was turned to her and she tried to look at the subtle hints on Naruto's face, but she didn't really get that much out of it. Naruto then turned around and smiled. I see. So Kimimaro is just a big softy. Tell him that I'll do all in my power to get the boy safely, Naruto said, and Pakura nodded before she floated off back to Kimimaro. Naruto in the meantime walked off to catch up to his mother and cousin. He was busy thinking over Kimimaro's request. Naturally Naruto would have wanted to save anyone from the clutches of Orochimaru, but since the Sanin's apparent death, then Naruto could have just told them that. For some reason, he would be sure that they wouldn't believe him unless he had some form of proof, and in all actually they didn't have to believe him about anything. He would have to think things over. It didn't take Naruto long to catch up to Kushina and Yura, who had been waiting for him to arrive. The blonde had relayed all of Pakura's information to his mother and leader. Kushina was more than pleased to know that they wouldn't be back until the night time. That gave Heineken more than enough time for them to get themselves situated with the environment. So what are we going to do? Yura asked and Kushina smiled. It was sort of like Naruto knew a prank was coming from his mother, and that fact sort of scared him. He had never known his mother's prankster side before. But for some reason it got him hot under the collar. Oh yeah, he was just so hot for his mother at the moment from that smile, and the fact that Kyubi was telling him to take both Yura and Kushina at the same time didn't help him at all. Naruto ignored the dirty thoughts for another time while he knelt down, earning him stares of confusion from Kushina and Yura. Sochi, what are you doing? Kushina asked while Naruto placed his hand on the wet water. He closed his eyes while he offered his mother and cousin an explanation, although Yura hadn't asked, but he knew that she was just as curious as Kushina was. I'm going to send out a wave of Honshu over the lake. If there is anything that uses spiritual energy at all, then I should be able to find it. Since the bijou are condenses of chakra, then you should be able to locate the spiritual half of the chakra that allows you to make chakra, Yura exclaimed, interrupting Naruto, but getting a nod from the blonde. Kushina seemed okay with it and allowed Naruto the opportunity to do his works before the girls noticed Naruto slam the water. Immediately a large wave of Honshu swept the lake from the surface and covered it entirely. Naruto slightly coughed since his use of the Kokunyugami had sort of drained him while he did a jutsu inside it. He noticed that Honshu was much harder to control, and using it for his incomplete time-space ninjutsu was hurting him slightly in that department. Naruto closed his eyes and scanned the entire area. It was obvious that the lake was deeper than he had imagined it. He then suddenly opened his eyes and glared at the water. He had just located the Sanbai. He seemed to have been sleeping or something like that, but Naruto was sure that the bijou knew that he was there thanks to that tactic. He's here, but he's really down there. At least 50 feet below us, and that's just an estimate. I doubt any of us could go down there unless we're really good at holding our breath, Naruto said while Kushina sighed. 50 feet seemed like a bit of a stretch. No real human could do it, and while Kushina knew that her son couldn't die, she'd rather not have to actually test that out unless it was something of a last resort. Alright then, Yura, keep the guard. Naruto and I will get to work, Kushina said, and Naruto agreed. Kushina began to weave hand signs while Naruto watched her. He watched her on her last set before he took out a piece of paper and quickly wrote across it. He then slammed the water with it. Uzumaki Fuin, Funsai no Ryoiki, Uzumaki seal, area shattering, Naruto shouted as Yura watched in astonishment that the water suddenly swirled into the air, hovering over them, allowing them to catch a glimpse of the earth below, but not for long, since that was nothing to what Yura spotted. She could see a large three-tailed creature at the bottom of the lake. It was so massive before she saw Kushina quickly slam the air. Tajikome Fuin no Yuzushiogakuer, containment seal of the hidden whirlpools, Kushina shouted as Naruto and Yura watched a large array of seals come from her hands. They attached themselves to the sandbai and quickly glowed before dissipating. She smiled at her work before Yura gulped. And what do we do with the massive amount of water over our heads? Yura asked, not really wanting to experience being crushed to death by a sudden intake of water. Kushina turned to Naruto and the blonde nodded. Naruto sighed and knew he would have to rest after this. Kokunyugami no Jutsu, Naruto shouted as he extended his hands. Everything around him froze and he looked to see Yura staring at the large wall of menacing water threatening to crush their very lives, while Kushina was totally relaxed, but he could understand why his mother was so. The blonde Kenjutsu user sighed and grabbed his mother. He grabbed her and then he made a clone to grab Yura. The blonde then shot off for the land before his 5 minutes were up. Seriously, he just needed to find a way to deal with that stupid time limit or it wouldn't grant him much. Naruto quickly made it to land before he gently placed Kushina and Yura on the ground. Naruto cancelled the jutsu and everything began to move again. Yura seemed confused to what happened. 1 second they were in the water and now they were on land. She turned back to hear the thunderous sound of the water crashing back together while Kushina smiled. They had done their part and now they just had to wait for a few fools to try and take the bait for it. She then turned to her son and noticed that Naruto dropped down. He huffed heavily like he had trouble breathing. He really wasn't used to using Honshu to such a degree and it was a pain that he would have to go back to chakra basics. Consuming tons of Honshu that his reserves got bigger for him so he wouldn't be all tired for the next time, but right now he had to rest and his mother realized it. Well, stop there, Databane. Then we'll set up a little camp. Yura, take Naruto to the tents and let him rest. I'll go and collect the others, Kushina said, and Yura nodded her head before she slowly helped Naruto up and took him away to their camp for his rest. Kushina looked back at the waters and glared. Your turn. Just know that it's not going to be as easy as the last time, Kushina said with a smirk before she disappeared from view. With Sasuke and Yuna, the two Uchiha quickly made it to one of Orochimaru's former bases. Sasuke guided Yuna down its steps and Yuna was sure that she had been here before. She doubted it, but Sasuke said that all of Orochimaru's bases were constructed the same way so that there was really no way of telling them apart. Yuna thanked Sasuke for the explanation as they traversed the halls, knowing that they wouldn't be encountering any of Orochimaru's men. You want to know why? Well, let's just say that Sasuke never liked company in the places that he went to when he was alone. He always focused on his training. And the unlucky assholes who crossed his path filled the earth beneath his feet. He didn't really care. They were all former bandits, rapists, slave traders, and the other pieces of trash that society had to offer. So Uchiha boy, what are we doing here? Yuna asked with a smirk as she lightly tapped Sasuke's arm. The Uchiha glanced at her with a sort of knowing glare of his eyes, but didn't stop the small smile from creaking across his face, though he was sure that Yuna had missed it. Simple, we're going to get the only idiot that I actually left in this place. Don't worry, he's pretty much harmless. Though he's someone you could take if he got on your nerves, Sasuke said, and Yuna nodded her head, sort of relieved, but at the same time pained. Why, she wasn't sure. Alright then, what's this guy's name? Yuna asked, and Sasuke turned around. Suigetsu. It's time that idiot repaid his debt to me, Sasuke said before he opened a door. It was dark, well, sort of. The only types of lights were computer monitors and lights flashing. Yuna could see a tube of water and the bubbles surfaced from time to time. She looked inside and narrowed her eyes. "Byo!" a sudden voice said, and Yuna jumped back in surprise while Sasuke folded his arms. Both Uchiha noticed a teen with bluish-white hair. He cackled at Yuna's surprised face before he turned to Sasuke. "Oh boy, what do you want? Don't you have better shit to do than bother me?" he asked while Sasuke snorted. "Shut up, Suigetsu. We're getting you out of there and you are coming with me," Sasuke said while Suigetsu glared at him. "Ha! You wish, Sasuke. I'm not facing Orochimaru's wrath just so you can exact vengeance on your brother." "Stupid emo," Suigetsu said while Yuna glanced at them both. She saw the smile on Sasuke's face as he folded his arms. "Well then. It's good that he's dead and not coming back. Isn't it?" Sasuke asked while Suigetsu widened his eyes. He then calmed as Yuna and Sasuke watched him laugh out loudly. "Ha ha ha." And Kabuto said that the Uchihas had no sense of humor. "That's a good one, Sasuke," Suigetsu said, and Sasuke narrowed his eyes into a glare. Yuna chuckled and walked up as she leaned her body against Suigetsu's container. "They also say that the Uchihas are legendary for a reason, water boy. Want me to show you how strong my katana affinity is? I wonder if I could turn you into steam," Yuna threatened while Suigetsu glared at her. "Sasuke, who is this bitch?" Suigetsu asked while Sasuke smirked. "Yuna Uchiha," Sasuke responded, and Suigetsu glanced at her. Yuna seemed more than ready and capable of going through with her threat. Suigetsu then moved his eyes back to Sasuke and glared. "Is he really gone?" Suigetsu asked, and Sasuke nodded his head in an affirmative. Suigetsu sighed and rubbed the back of his head. "Looks like I'll finally be entertained." "Well, hurry up and get me out of this thing already," Suigetsu said, and Sasuke nodded. He advanced on the tube before Yuna stopped him. She looked at Suigetsu with a thoughtful expression. "What do you say?" Yuna asked while Sasuke raised an eyebrow. "Now!" Suigetsu shouted, and Yuna shook her head. She placed her hand on the container and quickly channeled her chakra into it. Suigetsu watched as the water began to bubble. He widened his eyes, and so did Sasuke before Suigetsu slammed the tube. "You're crazy. Fucking crazy girl. You're worse than Karen." Suigetsu shouted, and Yuna merely whistled while she kept channeling her Honshu into the water. Living things couldn't handle the heat of Honshu nor the Honshu in general. "Oh, it looked like it really hurt." "I'm waiting," Yuna said patiently while Suigetsu cursed. He could feel his insides hurting from the power of life that all spirits were known to possess. "Please. Please. Please. Get me out." Suigetsu shouted while Yuna stopped her technique. She motioned for her little cousin/lover to move forward, and in one swift motion Sasuke cracked the glass and watched as Suigetsu fell out. He coughed and glared at Yuna before his body was cloaked to wear some clothes. He wore a sleeveless, purple shirt with gray pants, sandals, and a belt around his waist with water bottles attached to it. Suigetsu stood to his feet, and in one swift motion he appeared behind Yuna and chuckled. "You know I could kill you right now, right?" Suigetsu asked with a smirk across his face. It was only then that he noticed Sasuke's blade, with lighting running through it, at his neck while Yuna had a smirk on her face. She had easily seen and expect Suigetsu to come at her, and with her Sharingan it was really easy. "You do, and you'll be on the next one following her," Sasuke said with his Sharingan flaring. Suigetsu glanced at Sasuke while Yuna smiled. Don't bite off more than you think you can chew, she said before she removed herself from Suigetsu's hold and placed a hand on her hip. No, can we go now? It's late and I'd like to get something to eat, Yuna said while Sasuke agreed. Whoa, if I'm gonna join you then there is something that you have to get for me, Suigetsu said and Sasuke glared while Yuna raised an eyebrow. And what would that be? Yuna asked and Suigetsu grinned. The sword of the demon of the mist, the Kubikurabocho, Suigetsu said with a grin. Yuna didn't seem all that impressed actually. Humph, men and their toy blades. Sasuke didn't really seem to care, but he doubted that he could tell Suigetsu that the sword's wielder was alive and even stronger than before. Fine, Sasuke said and Suigetsu nodded as he left. Yuna pulled Sasuke to the side and whispered. You do know that Zabuza is dash, she trailed off as Sasuke nodded. He doesn't need to know that, Sasuke said and Yuna snickered and nodded before they followed Suigetsu out of the door. Back with Heineken, 2 days later, nighttime. Naruto sighed and opened his eyes. It was night and the moon was in the sky. He looked around and noticed that the others were in their tents. Most likely no one was really sleeping since they were waiting for an attack at any moment. It had been 2 days since their encounter and it seemed that Kimimaro and Pakura were wrong in their information, but Naruto didn't reprimand them for it. No, that was somewhat of his fault. Naruto felt most of his honshu return to his body and this was something that he noticed also. If he wasn't doing anything then honshu could refill in his body much faster than chakra could, so the blonde was feeling a little better. He had used yesterday to practice with the time-space jutsu. He drained his honshu continually doing things and he noticed something else. He could only use the Kokonyugami 3 times a day. He had tried to shoot for a 4th, but it didn't work. Which made him wonder why. Did I wake you, Shikin-sama? Dan asked, shocking Naruto slightly. He kept his warm and inviting smile which calmed Naruto down. The blonde sighed and shook his head to Dan's question. Dan then reported his mission a success for Naruto in delivering the scroll to Tsunade before he was absorbed into Naruto's sword. The blonde watched him leave and since he was up he decided to have a little walk. Naruto left his tent and quickly walked off, though he knew that the others knew he was up and where he was going in case they needed him. Naruto enjoyed the little quiet that he could get and looked up at the moon. Strangely, it reminded the blonde of Shin with its white presence. He settled on top of a rock and stared at it longingly. Naruto, for some reason, could feel a lot of spiritual energy flowing from it. He could feel it linking to the honshu in his body. What are you thinking? Kyubi asked from behind his cage to his grown accustomed to friend. Naruto smiled and leaned back. Not sure. I just feel at peace when I look at the moon. I don't know why, Naruto said and Kyubi didn't know why either. He then closed his eyes and gave a snort of acknowledgement before he used one of his tails to scratch his eyebrows before going to sleep unless something interesting happened. Oh, so you like looking at the moon too? Naruto resisted the not unexpected urge to jump from the sound of a voice and shifted his eyes to glance at Yukimaru, who had come up with a smile. Naruto raised an eyebrow to the boy before he noticed a little further off that Kimimaro and Pakura weren't far off. This must be the kid that they were talking about, Naruto said in his thoughts before he registered the boy's question. Yeah, I do. How about you? Naruto asked and Yukimaru nodded his head while he looked up at it, showing his crystal flower to Naruto. The blonde glanced at it and watched it shimmer in the moonlight, granting it a very nice luminescent glow. I love it. There is just something nice about it, Yukimaru answered and Naruto nodded. The two teens stayed together for a bit since there was little to talk about, then they stayed quiet, but Naruto didn't know that Yukimaru didn't like silence. Say, would you mind telling me? Where is home? He asked, and even though Naruto had his eyes closed he thought over the question. So many times he had often wondered that question when he was younger and still the bane of people's existence. He wondered if he would miss Konoha if he left or if they would miss him. Whether or not he would be happy in another village or even another country. However, Naruto knew that if he had left then he most likely wouldn't be here. He might not have the Shinigami contract. Not his mother, Hayashi and Hinata might still be sad about Hinako. Niji would still be sad without Hisashi. So many things wouldn't have happened had he not been in Konoha and endured it all. Home is where your heart is. You don't need things. You just need to be happy with whoever you're with. And trust me, Orochimaru isn't going to give that to you. Naruto didn't have to open his eyes to know that the boy looked at him in awe. He could somehow see Kimimaro with a calculated stare as well as Pakura. Yukimaru got silent and traced his fingers over the crystal. "So you knew about me?" he asked, and Naruto nodded his head. "Yep, it wasn't that hard actually. You really should leave him. The guy's dead anyway," Naruto said, and if Yukimaru was shocked about Naruto learning of his identity, then he was even more shocked about Orochimaru. "What are you talking about? Orochimaru-sama is alive," Kabuto said to Yukimaru said while Naruto chuckled. Oh, he would have liked nothing more than to laugh in Kabuto's face about that fact, but he knew better than that. "Yeah, well, sorry to break it to you, but Kabuto's pulling your leg, kid. You and that little group you've got going on are doing this for nothing. Trust me, Kabuto's not going to have anyone who can challenge him, so he'll most likely kill them and you later," Naruto said while Yukimaru looked at him jokingly, but the small glare that Naruto gave the moon made him flinch. He'd even kill Guren-san?" Yukimaru asked, and Naruto watched him tighten his hold on the crystal while Naruto smiled. "Is she the one who made that crystal for you?" Naruto asked, and Yukimaru nodded with a small smile. "She's really nice. She stopped the mission for my benefit. I don't like using my powers, but if it will make Guren-san happy then I will do it," Yukimaru said, and Naruto glanced at him. He figured that Guren was the woman he had seen and chuckled. To be serving Orochimaru, she must be messed up somewhere, Naruto baited. He wanted to see Yukimaru's reaction and he got a glare from the boy. "Guren-san isn't evil or bad. I trust her." "Don't talk about her like that," Yukimaru said, and Naruto closed his eyes with a smile. "She's not bad, huh?" Naruto thought to himself and chuckled, which got Yukimaru's attention. It was then that he noticed the swirl on Naruto's right shoulder and widened his eyes. "Ah, that marking. I've seen it before," Yukimaru said while Naruto's eyes widened. He quickly stood up and turned to Yukimaru, which shocked the boy. "Where?" Naruto asked frantically. His symbol had been seen and he hoped that this kid wasn't joking. Guren-san has one like that on her lower shoulder. Also there was this middle-aged man in Kumogakure who had it. He had blonde hair like yours. I was in Kumo at one time before coming here. Did I say something wrong? He asked, and Naruto shook his head. There were 2 women working for Orochimaru who were related to his family. Then there was Tayuya and this guy from Kumo. Naruto looked up at the moon and sighed. No way was he going to get near Guren unless they fought, and she really didn't seem like the type to talk first and fight later. Naruto sighed and sat down. He brushed his hand through his hair and grumbled. This was some troubling information for the blonde, but he couldn't deny that he wasn't happy. "Are you sure?" Naruto asked, and Yukimaru nodded. Naruto chuckled at the innocence of the boy. He was telling information to the enemy, but Naruto wasn't going to abuse it. No way would he. "Tell me, Yukimaru, if Guren were family of mine, would you go with her with me?" Naruto asked, and Yukimaru pondered his question. He placed a finger to his chin and smiled. "Where Guren-san goes, I will go," he said cutely, and Naruto chuckled. He stood to his feet and walked off. "Very well then. Be prepared for tomorrow. It's going to be a long day," Naruto said, and Yukimaru watched him disappear before he saw Naruto wave his sword into the air. He wondered what he was doing, but Naruto then sheathed it and walked off. Weird guy, Yukimaru said to himself before he walked away. Back at the shack, Yukimaru came through the door and he was met with a glare and a tapping foot as he looked up to see Guren with her arms folded merely waiting for Yukimaru's reply. Every seemed to enjoy the boy's squirming before he smiled. I went out for a walk, he said, and Guren's glare tightened. This kid was crucial to their mission. How could be so nonchalant? I almost went out looking for you. Do you know that? She asked and Yukimaru smiled. I'm sorry I worried you, he said, and Guren snorted. She would have retorted and said that she wasn't worried no matter how much it was the opposite. During these past 2 days Guren had been around Yukimaru a little bit. She didn't allow herself to admit it, but the boy's smile was infectious on her. He wasn't afraid of her at all and he wasn't mad at her for putting him through this. He was just concerned with making her happy, which was probably the most hypocritical thing here. This wasn't making her happy. She had to question this method. They hadn't moved in 2 days and Yukimaru was starting to get the color back to his face, which Guren was glad for. Just don't do it again, she said and started to walk back before Yukimaru grabbed her arm and tugged her. Guren sighed and turned back to him while Yukimaru spoke. Guren-san, can we talk outside? Yukimaru asked and Guren raised an eyebrow. She'd never known Yukimaru to be fidgety, but she allowed it. Fine, she said as they walked out. Gozu and the others glanced at each other, but Rinji was the only one who seemed truly interested in what Yukimaru might have had to say. Outside, Guren stood slack-jawed at what Yukimaru told her. He fidgeted underneath her gaze while Guren grabbed his shoulders. Who told you this? She asked angrily. Not angry at Yukimaru. No, she couldn't be angry at him, but she had to be angry. How in the hell could Orochimaru die? He was one of the Sannin. He always proclaimed that he was the greatest of the Sannin and no one could really refute that as they never lived long enough to try. En Naruto Nizan. He said that he and Sasuke Uchiha took down Orochimaru-sama. He said that Kabuto was there and knew it, but lied to us. He said that we were doing this for nothing, Yukimaru said while Guren growled. Konoha had said this? She hadn't seen Orochimaru for a few weeks, but could that explain his disappearance? Guren unhanded Yukimaru and looked out towards the lake. All the images of her childhood caught up with her. Orochimaru had saved her from herself and from certain death when her family was killed. Her mother always taught her stories about her redhead grandfather. A fiery man who married one of their civilian women and how she was born and stuff like that. Guren had never known or she forgot it. You met with him? Guren asked and Yukimaru nodded. Yes, Guren-san, he also knew that I was from Orochimaru even when I didn't say anything. Also, I'm sorry, but I told him about that swirl marking on your shoulder and he got all excited, Yukimaru said while Guren covered the marking. She had gotten the marking about 2 or 3 months ago, but she had played it off as something stupid. Why? She asked and Yukimaru shook his head. I don't know, but he then suddenly said that if Guren-san would come home with him then would I follow him. I said that I would go anywhere that Guren-san went because I like Guren-san, Yukimaru said, and despite the situation Guren balled her fists. Curse this kid and his smile. Also curse this information. But how could a mere brat and an Uchiha handle Orochimaru? Guren had to know. Where is he now? Guren asked, hoping to get the drop on Naruto and the others, but Yukimaru wasn't sure and Guren didn't reprimand him for that. It was sort of obvious. I don't think he was lying, Guren-san, Yukimaru said while Guren turned to him. He had this look in his eyes. It was like I had to believe him above all else. What will you do if he's right? Yukimaru asked and Guren bit her thumb. If he was telling the truth? On the chance that he was telling the truth, then Guren wouldn't know what to do. Her life revolved around Orochimaru's goals and without him then it was over. She wasn't sure what she would do. Guren racked her brain left and right. Before she widened her eyes. She gave a small smile and nodded. Yes, that could work. If he was telling the truth, then that was the best way to do it, wasn't it? Yukimaru, here's what we're going to do. If he is telling the truth, then we'll do something. If not, then I'll kill him. It will require a few things. Do you want to do this? Guren asked. She really was changing because of this kid. She wasn't sure why, but he always made her smile. In fact, this plan would make her heart wrench again. Hi Guren-san, Yukimaru said while Guren sighed. Just Guren. The san is annoying, she said, and Yukimaru shook his head with a smile while they walked off. Next morning Heineken was out in the lake like yesterday and waited for everyone to come out of their hiding. Naruto sighed and skipped a stone. He couldn't seal the Sanbai because that would require a human, and he'd be damned if he made a Jinchuriki. He doubted he could seal Sanbai in an object as well. Kyubi told him that while they could be sealed in objects, it wasn't going to stay long before they broke out. Naruto would just have to wait. So what's the plan? Mikoto asked, and Kushina suddenly smiled. She grabbed the hilt of her sword and everyone tensed suddenly. We fight Databane, Kushina said, and everyone immediately dodged to the sides as a crystal dragon slammed into the beach. Kushina and Naruto backflipped while Fuka protected Yura and moved to the side. Mikoto, Kakashi and Yugao had jumped into the air before landing. They watched as Guren came from the field. Kushina glanced at Naruto and the blonde gave a silent nod of his head. She nodded and turned back while Guren smiled. Well, it looks like we have guests. Would you leave if I told you to? Guren asked while Naruto came up. Not without the Sanbai. Sorry, but Orochimaru's not getting his grubby hands on this. Actually, he won't be getting his hands on anything since he couldn't get it anyway, Naruto said, and Guren growled. She noticed the rest of Heineken's smirk. It was then that smoke popped up and everyone heard a dragon's roar. Enryu, smoke dragon, a voice shouted, and they watched the dragon cover the entire beach. Naruto sucked his teeth from the smoke before he noticed 4 other shadows come into the cloud of smoke. Clashing could be heard around Naruto, and the blonde took out his sword only to block a crystal blade. He narrowed his eyes while seeing Guren grin at him. You're dead, she said, but Naruto shook his head and Guren was punched across the face by a clone, sending her flying back. Guren brushed her cheek before everyone heard a shout. Ah! Yukimaru shouted while Guren smirked. Kushina smirked as well and held up a hand sign. Kai, she said silently before getting back to the fight. With Kakashi and Mikoto, the 2 Heineken members stepped away from Nurari and Kakashi flashed his Sharingan while Nurari smiled. You're who Konoha sent to fight us. You look like amateurs, he said, sort of femininely, which was something that Kakashi and Mikoto noticed. And you look like a drag queen. The world is weird like that, I guess, Mikoto answered, and Kakashi resisted the urge to snicker before the 2 dodged a kunai strike. Kakashi quickly unsheathed his sword and charged at Nurari. The drag queen dodged to the side from Kakashi's blade strike and then dodged Mikoto, letting out little shrieks which made them wonder just how tough he was. With Fuka and Yura, the 2 females were facing off against Kajiri, who was looking at them both with a shrug of his shoulders. His cloak masked his face so they couldn't tell what he was expressing. Why do I have to fight girls? Ugh, such a bore, Kajiri said before he heard Fuka chuckling. She stood to her feet and brushed a hand through her hair before looking back to her cousin. Yura, please stand back. I think I'll have some fun. You try and stop that brat from doing anything stupid, Fuka said, and Yura wanted to retort to her fellow Uzumaki, but a glare that Fuka gave Kajiri left her no room to say that, so she left. So fighting a woman is a bore, huh? Allow me to prove you wrong then. After all, I hear Uzumaki females are supposed to be quite entertaining, Fuka said as she took out a kunai. Kajiri narrowed his eyes at her before the two got started. Yura made her way towards the boat that was quickly leaving with the kid right on it. She hurried and was about to catch up to it before she heard a shout. She saw Gozu overhead with a large fist coming down on her. Yura widened her eyes before another shout came. Yuzu no Fukushu, Tikoku no Jisei, Whirlpool Revenge, Imperial Sacrifice, Kushina yelled as she slammed her sword into Gozu's arm. The two clashed and Gozu yelled out in pain as a wave of electricity came across his body. He was sent flying away into the trees while Kushina grinned. "Go, we'll back you up," she said, and Yura nodded before running off. With Naruto and Guren, the two continued to clash away at each other. Naruto narrowly dodged a strike to the face and Guren jumped away from a swipe to her feet. She spun her body to send a kick to Naruto's face. The blonde was ready to block before he noticed her foot encased in crystal. Yeah, that would hurt. Naruto took the hit square on, which sending him crashing across the dirt. Guren grinned before she noticed a poof. "Kage Bunshin," she said in astonishment before Naruto shouted. "Rasengan," he hollered and slammed the ball into the ground. Guren had dodged the attack, but awed the destructive power only for her to notice that she was surrounded by Naruto clones. Guren looked left and right across from them all before she heard the Naruto's shout. "Yuzu no Fukushu, Itarutakoro Shirkei no Mai, Whirlpool Revenge, Surrounding Death Dance," the Narutos shouted as they all converged on Guren. The female shinobi of Otogekure glared before she did her own hand signs. "Shoten, Kurinai no Kajitsu, Crystal Release, Crimson Fruit," Guren shouted, and Naruto watched as she encased herself in crystal as they slashed at it. Now Guren's armor was tough, Naruto could admit that, because it stopped the attack cold. Naruto cursed and backflipped away before he saw someone coming. They were clapping repeatedly while Guren raised an eyebrow. "Nice work. But let's see how you fare against me," Rinji said, coming out before Naruto chuckled. He shook his head and turned to Guren. "Oh, how could you not see it? Hey Kabuto, why don't you tell Guren that Sasuke killed Orochimaru?" Naruto asked while Rinji paled. Guren stared over to Rinji in surprise. "Sorry, but I have no idea what you're talking about. My name is Rinji." "You're obviously confused," Rinji said while sweating. Naruto grinned and nodded his head. "Nuff said. See ya." Naruto dashed off and went after Yukimaru. Guren gasped and quickly followed him before everyone heard thrashing around. Kushina smiled and everyone looked to see the Sanbai emerge. It roared violently while everyone took the time to notice it. Yukimaru continued his screaming while the chakra output raised. Acting fast, Naruto quickly swung his sword out. "Shirkan no Mai," Naruto said, and Guren could see 4 spirits come out of Naruto's sword. Pakura, Dan, Kimimaro, Fujike's assist Ka-chan and the others. "Take out these guys. Also Pakura, I want you to take out Rinji for me," Naruto said, and the 4 beings nodded and floated off. Naruto could see Guren right on his tail and smiled as he bit his thumb and traced it over his seal. "Kuchios no Jutsu," Naruto shouted, and Guren suddenly felt the air go cold. She felt an immense ki wash over the beach and the Shinigami appeared behind Naruto. "Shin, time to work. Help me deal with this thing," Naruto said, and Shin looked up at the Sanbai inside. Another bijou that he had been summoned to fight. "Very well, what needs to be done?" Shin asked, and Naruto looked up before he smiled. "Ka-chan's seal should be working in 3, 2, 1, Naruto said, and soon everyone was blinded by a huge light that came from the Sanbai. Its light blinded everyone, even Guren and Naruto, before they faintly saw the Sanbai open its mouth, and Guren gasped. "No! Yukimaru!" Guren shouted before a blast of water came from the Sanbai's mouth. It was only a few inches away before Yukimaru was pulled and pushed into the water below. Yura coughed to keep Yukimaru afloat while giving a thumbs up to Naruto. The Sanbai roared out again before its tails thrashed violently. It shook the lake that people were on before it noticed Naruto and Guren. "Oh shit, no no no," Naruto said repeatedly before all went dark for him. "Guren is in," Yukimaru shouted while Yura struggled to bring him to shore. Yukimaru cried at Guren and Naruto getting inside the Sanbai. This wasn't how the plan was supposed to go. Yukimaru shouted out and the chakra bursted Yura away from him before the Sanbai raged again, being even more violent this time around. With Kakashi and Mikoto, Katan, Karyu Enden no Jutsu, the two yelled together sending a roaring fire at Nurari. The drag queen shrieked out before he placed his hands into the air. "Nensukai, viscous water mass," Nurari said while Kakashi and Mikoto watched as a strange liquid formed from his suit. It made a protective barrier over his head as the fire slammed into the water membrane. Nurari chuckled at seeing his technique stop the fire before he turned to the others. "You two are really weak. I'm surprised that Konoha sends this few people," Nurari said with a feminine chuckle making Kakashi shivered. He and Mikoto glared before Kakashi did a hand sign. He quickly took his blade back in his hands and everyone could see a white light cover the field. Kakashi then vanished and appeared behind Nurari. The drag queen ninja widened his eyes in surprise of Kakashi's actions while the Cyclops Heineken member closed his sword. Kakashi carefully closed his sword and a huge lightning line appeared from Mikoto's position and in a crazy zigzag crossed Nurari to where Kakashi was. "Raikiri Isen, lightning blade, single flash slash," Kakashi said and Nurari dropped to the ground. He didn't even cough up blood. He just laid there dead from Kakashi's attack. Mikoto whistled before she looked at the ground to see a searing line across the ground with residual traces of lightning across it. Kakashi turned around and gave an eye smile. "Let's go get the others," he said nonchalantly while Mikoto felt that the only other option was to nod. With Fuka, Raitun, Jibashi, Fuka shouted and she slammed the ground sending down a wave of lightning over Kijiri. The man dodged to the side and sent a shuriken at Fuka who blocked it with her kunai. She then quickly turned her head to the side to met a kick. Fuka dodged that attack before she slid between Kijiri's legs and came up around. Kijiri turned around to met the female Uzumaki's lovely smiled. "You know, you're cute. However, you're not as cute as Naruto-kun, so I'll just have to kill you," Fuka said like it was the easiest fact in the world. Kijiri narrowed his eyes at her before he did a hand sign. "Tajuu Kamuri Bunshin, multi-smoke clones," Kijiri said before he vanished in his smoke. Fuka could see dozens of smoke clones all around her and her patience was running thin. The Uzumaki chuckled and before she did her own hand sign. "This is enjoyable, but you're beginning to bore me. Time to die." Suetun, Haran Bansho, water release, stormy blockade, she said and Kijiri watched as a large fall of water appeared over them both, but he easily dodged that and jumped into the air. "You think that's enough to take me?" he asked and Fuka merely had a smile on her face. "Who knows," she said walking away. Kijiri landed on the ground before Fuka snapped her fingers. An huge explosion came behind her and Fuka brushed her hair with a light chuckle. Katan, Senka no Jutsu, fire release, sage fire. Technique, she said before she was regrouped with Byugao. With Naruto and Guren, Naruto groaned and got to his feet. He coughed and opened his eyes. He looked to see that he was somewhere, but he didn't know where. Naruto turned his head to the left before seeing Guren. She cursed and Naruto noticed the look of her leg. It looked like it bended the wrong way. He winced at it and sighed. "Oh, who got the number of that asshole who sucker punched me?" Naruto groaned while Guren snorted. "Bought time you woke up," she said and Naruto snorted back at her. "I don't think humans are supposed to bend that way," he said jokingly before Guren sent him a death glare. Naruto chuckled despite himself before he got to his feet. Where are we? Naruto asked while Guren sighed. This wasn't a part of the plan. We're inside the damn turtle. Guren shouted while Naruto looked around. Yep, definitely the insides of some kind of creature. He sighed again before he saw Guren tried to get to her feet. She used the wall for leverage, and when she got a good balance she slumped to the floor. Naruto watched this for 3 times more before he sighed. Here, let me help you, he said before his hand was swatted away. Shut up. I don't need your help. Not now, not ever. Guren said, and Naruto glared at her. Guren growled at him, but it was then that she could see just the smallest traces of sadness in his eyes before it was masked. I didn't know that family was so mean, Naruto said while Guren's eyebrow twitched. She turned to see Naruto's goofy smile and snorted. She was related to this buffoon? No way. And you expect me to believe that? She asked, and Naruto advanced on her. She tensed, but she just noticed him look at her back and he saw the swirl symbol. Naruto chuckled and he showed the swirl symbol on his arm. Guren widened her eyes to it and Naruto sighed. Why am I only finding female Uzumaki? Naruto asked out loud while Guren stared at him incredulously. Naruto merely placed his hands down and picked up Guren while she gasped and unintentionally wrapped her arms around his neck. We've got to stop meeting like this, Naruto said while Guren just settled for looking at him. She then punched his arm and growled. Yeah, whatever, just hurry up and get us out of here, she said, and Naruto quickly carried her off, though on the last step he huffed. Damn girl, he huffed while Guren growled. Are you saying I'm fat? She hollered while Naruto sighed. She wasn't fat, not she was hot. Sort of like Fuka. She seemed to be her age, if not a year or 2 older. Had that older woman feel that his mother had, but nowhere near as appealing or even as satisfying. No, of course not. You have a wonderful figure, Databeo, Naruto said while Guren allowed a faint blush to grow on her cheeks. Oh, she wasn't going to live through this humiliation. Right, now then. This wasn't exactly in my plan, but anyway. If I'm to even have the slightest option to not kick your ass, then tell me right now. How is Orochimaru dead? Guren asked while Naruto guided her through the tunnels. Oh, so you wanted to talk with me? Awesome, Databeo, Naruto said before Guren snorted. She rolled her eyes before the Shinigami came behind him. Uzumaki, Naruto, you have summoned me, so what are you going to do? Shin asked, making sure to appear invisible to Guren. Working on it, Naruto replied while Guren looked at him weirdly. Was he working on a reply to her answer? Oh, she couldn't wait to get out a strangle her apparent family member across his throat. Back in Konoha, Shikamaru stood in front of Kurenai's door and knocked. His eyes red from the tears while Kurenai opened the door. Shikamaru took a deep breath and told Kurenai the news. Kurenai widened her eyes to Shikamaru's word. No. 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 No, Kurenai said as she dropped to her knees. Shikamaru couldn't say anything before he watched Kurenai cry, letting the tears fall from her eyes. He wanted to comfort her and tell her that it would be all right. He could just hope that whatever this benevolent force that was reviving people was doing, that it would do it for them again. It had to. It just wasn't fair for Asuma to die. Kurenai continued to cry in her apartment door, and Shikamaru stayed with her the entire time before he looked up at the sky. I don't know if you're real or not, but please, I'm begging you. Please bring back Asuma to us, Shikamaru said to the raining sky that seemed to perfectly mask his tears from staining his jacket. Council room, Tsunade sighed along with everyone else. Izumo and Kotetsu had given Tsunade the report instead of Shikamaru. Hearing that report, then Tsunade could understand just how Shikamaru was feeling, which was why she didn't reprimand him for not coming. To think that another Sarutobi has died, Hamura said while the rest of the council was silent, well except for an enthusiastic councilman. But look at Mikoto-sama, Hinako-sama, and even Kushina-sama. Maybe he will come back as well, the man said, trying to raise some people's spirits. The civilians were sort of happy, but the shinobi side didn't look convinced at all, well except Hayashi. He knew the reason why, and he knew it would be hell if Naruto did do it. One hand, he would make everyone happy and revive Asuma, who many people know had died, and end up revealing his contract. On the other hand, if he said he wouldn't, then everyone would stop believing in such things. That's not to say that it will happen for this case, Hayashi interjected, which seemed to get everyone to control themselves. You can't say that. You got someone back. None of us have. A civilian hollered before Tsunade slammed the table. Shut up. We're not going to leave anything to any stupid chance. We shall hold the burial for Asuma in 2 days, Tsunade said while people calmed. Some sighed, and so did Shikaku. Everyone in this room had known Asuma personally. Speaking of Tsunade, I hear that the Uzumaki brat has a contract. Mind sharing the details? Hamura asked while Tsunade twitched. Her eyes darted to the left fast to see Hayashi's emotionless face, but his eyes showed a bit of concern. What does this have to do with anything? Tsunade asked, stalling by as much as possible. Nothing, I'm sure, but it seems that people are talking of deaths and Uzumaki-san's contract. I can't help but think that he might be the reason that they are coming back. Are you saying that Naruto is pulling an Orochimaru on us? Please, the pup doesn't have a single evil bone in his body, Some interjected rather harshly. She liked Naruto. He was good company when he had the time to visit the Inuzuka family. I agree. Naruto-san is rather strange, but we all know that he doesn't have control over life and death, Shibi said. Oh, if only they truly knew. Be that as it may, all records of summons must be catalogued into Konoha's records. Tsunade, you must tell us what contract he holds, Koharu pestered while Tsunade sighed. This was getting tough. And what would you do if it was such a big deal? Hayashi asked with his hands folded. If it's a big deal, then we'll ask him where he got it. Also he's got anything to do about this, Hamura said while Tsunade chuckled. Careful both of you. I am still the Hokage and Naruto is one of my shinobi. Besides, he doesn't answer to you. He answers to me, Tsunade stated while the civilians glanced at each other. She seemed rather protective over a simple summons contract. We're looking out for the village's best interests is all, Tsunade. You know that, Koharu said that it was like a fact. No, actually Tsunade didn't know that. She hardly knew what these old geezers thought about half the time. She had been informed of how asshole-ish they were to Naruto in his childhood, and now that Kushina, the Yandame's wife, had returned. He was the great heir to the Namikaze clan and Uzumaki clan. Damn hypocrites. Whatever, Tsunade said with a huff. And that is why we ask that you call back Naruto and his team from what they are doing. Which we really don't know. Please do that at your earliest convenience, they said, and Tsunade adjourned the meeting. People filed out, but Hayashi stayed behind. What are you going to do? He asked, and Tsunade rubbed her temples. I don't know, Hayashi. I just don't know, Tsunade said to him before the two left as well. Somewhere near AIM, and what makes you think that I will go with this idea? Madara asked, folding his arms. Danzo smirked with his two root members behind him. Because I know that you want the Kyubi Jinchuriki, and my sources tell me that said blonde has been seen in the vicinity of Wave recently. Isn't Akatsuki looking for the bijou anyway? We're not looking to capture that boy yet. However, you do propose a nice idea. You don't mind if I investigate before I make my decision? Madara asked while Danzo snorted. Of course not. Take as much time as you need, but make sure to look beyond the reaches of Wave. You never know about that boy, Danzo said, and Madara turned around. Sounds like you're scared of him, he theorized, and Danzo resisted the urge to laugh outrageously at such a ridiculous comment. Surely not. I'm just sick of him being around is all, Danzo said, and Madara disappeared. Be ready Kyuubi Jinchuriki, Danzo said before he walked off with a satisfied smirk. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like and subscribe, and don't forget to share this video with your friends. Guys, make sure to help the author by visiting the link in the description. This is Fox Sage, and I'm signing off.